Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next thing is the approval of the minutes. Did everybody look over the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Miller? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the agenda. Is there any corrections or additions to the agenda?
I would like to add, when we're talking section lines, like, number 4 there,
Yep.
I've got a short discussion maybe to add
That's okay,
on another section line.
okay. Any other additions? Any other additions? If not, I ask for a motion.
So moved, yeah.
Jim Vanderhorst, a second.
I'll second.
Gardner, all approve?
Aye.
Aye, all approve, nay. Motion carried. First item on the agenda is the employee manual, employees volunteering on the fire department and EMS. What we plan on doing with that. We had a discussion at the last 2 meetings.
Yeah, we did.
Well, I think, for the sake of trying to bring this to a conclusion, I guess I'll offer, basically my opinion is, I think, and I talked it over with Marlis and her group to just ask if it would be difficult to track, and she thought it wouldn't be a huge thing, so I think what we should do is allow the employees to leave. It'd be like an excused absence with your department head's approval, and then we would have 8 hours of like, what we would call volunteer time. It'd be like sick time or anything, and once you hit that 8 hours, you're just a volunteer then. You're still welcome to go, appreciate it, thank you for going, but we're only gonna pay for 8 hours. I think there's a value in paying just a small portion, just as a kind of a finishing note to say that we support this maneuver, you know? And it does offer some help to the guys that, you know, I mean, once you're getting over 8 hours, I mean, it's maybe a discussion we can have later if it becomes a problem. I think it's just a good starting point. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of issues. And I think 8 is like a typical working day type scenario, so basically you pay for 1 day. Maybe they take it over the course of 2 or 3 days, and if it becomes a tracking issue, we can probably amend it. I don't know if we have to have a perfect policy, but it's probably just a good start.
Yeah.
What
So
do
you're
you
saying-
think, huh?
So you're saying if the fire siren goes off right now and a guy leaves, and he's gone for 8 hours this call, he's gonna get paid for 8 hours, but after that, he does
Yes.
not get paid when he leaves to go fight a fire?
I would consider it like sick time or anything else where it'd just be a trackable benefit essentially of 8 hours of volunteer time, and you can track it. You work with your department head, if that, you know, Marlis can sort out the details a little bit with that as far as what's easiest for her department to track it for payroll. In my opinion, I think the department head, or it should probably get tracked in department, so we're keeping it isolated. We don't have, you know, the treasurer's office and auditor's office tracking every employee's volunteer times. It's not just road department guys, it could be anybody, a sheriff's
Right.
department, somebody that's off duty going, or, I don't know, that's probably a bad example, but whatever, somebody working in any office, you know, it could be Josh, volunteer fire
But
department.
after that 8 hours,
Yes.
they're not paid for anything
And I
after
would
that.
do it annually, it'd be 8 hours annually, so it'd start over, we'd start
So
off January
they take
1.
any time they go to a fire, it's without pay,
After 8 hours.
After the 8
After
hours.
the 8 hours. Which could happen in one fire,
Oh,
at the
yeah.
beginning of the
And-
year, and then
I-
that scares me because I'm afraid that might deter a guy or people from, you know what I mean? It doesn't always happen. Most of them calls, it's an hour just to get to the fire department, and even if they get called off and put the equipment back. So I mean, you're talking 8 calls a year that they might get paid for, and the rest they're supposed to eat. I get what you're saying, it's taxpayer money, and but it is an all volunteer fire department in Linton, Strasburg, Hazelton, Braddock, everywhere, and it's.
Well, 8 hours is more than they're getting now. They're not getting paid anything now, are they?
They don't get paid a dime, do they?
No.
I'm just,
I would, argue is not the right word. I would compliment your opinion by saying, I think 8 hours is a good starting point.
Right.
And if it gets to be where it's like, man, this isn't working, or if you get, I mean, a good example would be when we have vacation scenarios and hourly scenarios during major events, right? Okay, these guys aren't burning their vacation, we need them in the winter, we've discussed those of extending it, modifying it. You know, maybe we just started out at 8 hours and any amendments are, at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners. And you have a year where guys are putting in 40 hours that summer, maybe we can reconsider it, at least it's up for discussion. And maybe after a year or two, 8 hours isn't enough, and we wanna go further, or, you know, I think it's just a good starting point, it's better than what we have. It at least gets something on the books, and then at least it's something that's amendable now, where right now, we're crafting a policy that we don't even have, so what I would probably
Well,
compliment Commissioner Miller's idea that it's better than what they have, and
yeah,
it's a good starting point. I like the idea of paying them at least a little bit, because it solidifies our opinion that we want people volunteering for this stuff though, like.
I just think a lot of businesses in a lot of these towns just let their people go and they pay them, they don't make them punch out. That,
Do they?
I would say so, the city we do, and
There's times,
partially because there's value in having your city employees who know where the water shut-offs are, who know where, you know what I mean? Just like having MDU with gas shut-offs and everything else. I just worry, you know, I should say, I kinda think maybe, if, you know, if you're out for a certain extended period of time, over an hour, then you have to cut into that 8 hours, you know, cause some of these calls, there's oftentimes they get canceled before they even get there, and like I said, they burn up an hour or half an hour or 45 minutes for nothing. They get halfway to Hazelton, you know, there's been a couple accidents on 8334 where they've been called off because it wasn't as bad as everybody thought it was, so they didn't even make it out there. There was just one out here in 13 and 1804, and I mean, 8 hours can be gone like that. I'm a big fan of paying volunteers to go do something that a lot of people don't wanna go do.
Well, good
And
to
all these guys are employed, they're not old guys, they're all
oh,
young guys.
yeah.
But I'm willing to start at that. That's not
Well,
bad,
it's,
starting
I
point.
think 8 hours is a starting point, if there's any kind of, I mean, I'm not against anything more or less, that was just my consideration to at least get it started.
Yeah.
And, you know, and in 6 months to a year, it can be reevaluated, or,
I can live
you
with
know,
that, I can roll with
at
that.
least it's just something to get it going, so, you know, cause we're all in the same boat here, we discuss it every month, but then it's like, well, I don't wanna be unfair, well, I think we just need to start. And like Commissioner Miller said, we're not paying them at all, 8 hours is a
Right.
pretty good
Yeah.
bump, at least to this point, and we know what's going on, or at least people tell us what's going on, if it's like, hey, it should be more, I don't think anybody in this room's
Yeah,
not gonna consider making it equitable for everybody, so that it's fair, but we do have to protect ourselves too, so we don't have someone that's answering every call all the time, even if they're maybe not needed, and then claiming time, and it's
Right.
like, well, and you create policies for the bad actors, not the good ones,
Right,
so
yeah,
that's where you have to kind of be careful with
Right.
it, so
I would like to maybe add with what Jim was saying here. If they get out there and find out it wasn't worth going to, maybe just donate that time and not take it out of your 8 hours. Use it for later time.
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that once you create a policy, you're gonna find the struggles of it, so I think it's, I hate to use the Pelosi analogy, but you almost have to pass it to find out if it's gonna work. I think,
I can't believe you actually went there.
hey, well, you know, it's a great example to do things that maybe don't make sense, but anyway, I think we should get a policy in place, even if it doesn't work, it's better than what we have.
Yeah.
And then we just amend it as we need it to.
Leave it open to amend it, yeah.
I think the proper way to probably write the policy would be that every Emmons County employee is eligible for up to 8 hours of volunteer time annually. Any changes are at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners, and that kinda leaves you that loose opinion to where if it needs to get modified, we didn't just totally cement it and it's impossible to change. I think if there needs to be amendments, horrible fire seasons,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
scenario where it's like, man, our
Well,
guys are just getting, we want them out there,
Right,
but, that, you know, and we can find some happy medium, I think that would be a good start.
and we
Joe,
can,
would you be able to type something up?
The policy?
I mean, you know, with,
Really be more of an amendment to the policy, just one or two sentences, really, I don't see where.
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
it's Joe's middle name policy.
We have a policy now, Joe?
Well, there's the policy book, yeah, I don't know that it really touches on this much, but.
Okay.
Well, I think the idea is that it's just kind of been department by department and, you know, scenario by scenario, but as far as paying people and having the acceptable leave, you know, I think we would just consider it an excused absence. It would be, you know, I guess for the sake of time here, I would make the
Do
motion.
you wanna make the motion?
I would make the motion that we allow for county employees to have 8 hours of annual volunteer time approved by the department head, with any modifications being at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners. That would be kind of the policy in a nutshell. I can help Joe draft it or work with him on it too.
For fire and EMS or for any volunteering?
I think,
You're probably better off leaving it for any volunteering. You know, there's
well,
Giving Hearts
I guess,
Day and all that kind of stuff.
I would,
people say,
again,
well,
I would probably advocate that more towards the department head.
Okay,
Because there's probably a volunteer time outside of fire and EMS that's pretty worthy, that's not community-based, it's a need-based, so I would just put 8 hours of volunteer time, and these department heads will have to decide if that's a worthy enough cause or not, and I guess if we have a problem with that, we'll address it then too, so.
Okay.
alright, I'll second
Mr.
that.
Chairman, okay, Mayor made the motion, you got that, second by Gardner. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Very good.
Farm equipment damage from road project, rock and ruts in field, that must be the Dan Mock deal, is that resolved or is that still pending?
the claims adjuster called me and she's been trying to reach out to some of the county employees, I believe, at Guard, John, and they really don't wanna say what happened, you know? And she tried to reach out to Dan and he's not returning the calls, and that's the last I've heard.
Oh,
So it's basically still under consideration by NDRF?
So she hasn't approved nor disapproved,
Okay.
she can't make a decision until these people call her back, and
They're not doing
no.
it, so it's still open, okay.
Okay.
Zoning ordinance manual update. That's been discussed over the years, is it not, Ed?
Right, I think the biggest consideration was more what Commissioner Miller and Gardner had brought up probably at the last meeting, was that, one, we need to update our policy manual, and then the suggestion by Gardner that we should probably go through it chapter by chapter, segment by segment, so I would, I guess I would just add the opinion that it probably should be more like, basically, after every meeting, we offer a homework assignment, which is essentially go through whatever agreed chapter we're gonna go through, and then bring it forward at a meeting and then approve it, or at least go through that process of, you know, if there are any amendments, then we'd probably have to go through a little bit of a process, I'm not sure, but,
Yeah, probably at the end.
right. I would say, reading through it with no changes, we could agree as a board that we're in approval of the current chapter, though, not?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna probably have some changes, and so when we do changes, we'll have to have like a reading, I suppose, cause it.
Right.
Be like an ordinance.
Now,
So what should we do, appoint a chapter at a time?
I would say the proper thing to do, in my opinion, without offering any legal avenue, cause I'm not a lawyer, I would say we would review a chapter. If we have any amendments, then we would probably have to handle that either amendment by amendment, or can we have several amendments in several different parts of the book and offer them?
Yeah,
Like, can we basically segment it out where it's like, okay, we're gonna do 2 amendments in chapter 1. And then, do we have to go through and approve that before we can approve chapter 1, or, you know, I mean, that's kind of the,
usually they just approve all the amendments at the same time when you do like a restyle project, so you'll, yeah.
so you'd kinda gather all your, so you'd almost go through the amendment book, or the ordinance book, maybe have several amendments, and then you'd almost have to go through that process of like a hearing, readings, probably a public hearing, and then can you offer several amendments as a part of that process, though?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can have a whole new book if you wanted.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying, you have to have a hearing and a process on every amendment, or can you have like,
No.
okay, we're gonna amend 1A-2 and 3B-4, and then go through and have that, and then have just everybody come through in like a hearing process, and, I mean, cause that would probably be the cleanest way to do it, would be to just try and put several amendments in like one hearing. Cause we're probably gonna have quite a bit of amendments, just because it's been long overdue. that
Well, and I
How
wonder,
old is
so,
this amendment?
Well, that book
Before
is
it's
from,
been revised.
it says in the front, I think it's 82, 83.
so my question for Joe is, just like the city, are we better off having you go through it? Which I'm sure is the top priority for you right now, but would it be better off if you went through it first to update the verbiage and make any changes that follow any other, ordinances, you know, state ordinances, kinda like you did for the city, and then we go through the chapters and make any updates or changes, or just open it for discussion? Because it is from 80, what'd you say, 82?
82, I thought, is the comprehensive plan.
I mean, I certainly could if you wanted, but I mean, you guys might have your own ideas on what you want changed and,
But updating the verbiage is what I'm wondering, you know, like, I know you went through the city stuff as our attorney and updated the verbiage, number one, which was, I don't know how old the city stuff was, I think it was quite a bit older than 82 probably, but.
yeah, maybe a little bit.
I guess I would offer a compromise to that would be that the best thing to do would be go chapter by chapter and also have Joe go through that same chapter. That way, instead of him trying to update the entire book before we go through and do one thing or another, maybe we just all, so then Joe looks at chapter 1, and these are some things he really thinks should get changed. As we're making changes, we also incorporate Joe's changes.
Yep.
And I think we would just, it would be best to be working with him entirely, just as a, cause there's some of them chapters, the other thing about it too is we'll have to include current amendments that have been made over the last 5 to 10 years, different type, you know, ordinances and stuff too that have been passed, changed, so there'll be that to include too, which I think is good, because a lot of those are loose pages inside some of these books, not everybody's got them. So I think it'll just be good to go chapter by chapter with Joe doing his end at the same time we're trying to do any of ours, and then we're all broad stroke approving chapter by chapter and getting through it.
And then work on getting it digitized so we can get it on the website.
Theoretically, the goal would be to adopt a chapter a month, you'd have the book updated in a year roughly.
12.
Short of hearings and amendments, but at least you would be getting 80% of your book approved with the amendments now going through every couple months. We probably have to have a serious, you know, hearing, reading, public hearing, second reading approval scenario, but we could at least try and group them, try and take it in thirds, like chapter 1 through 3, all our amendments, okay, we're gonna schedule a hearing, we don't wanna have this huge day-long hearing. And try and do it maybe towards the evening so people can attend, and every 3 to 4 months, we have a major policy update hearing process where people can come in and participate.
Right.
I think that would be a pretty solid plan for the most part, unless anybody disputes it, and as we get into it, we'll know if that's not enough time, maybe a month isn't enough time. Maybe you do 2 chapters in a month, I don't know, but I would suggest taking small bites, and it's gonna be the easiest way to get it done, for Joe included, if you have him try and update an entire book at once, he's never gonna have time.
No.
1 chapter, I think that's pretty palatable within a month, and I think that's for all of us with our schedules we can do it, so.
Some chapters are fairly short, it would take 2,
Right.
do 2 or 3, then if we get a long one the next month, we can do 1.
Well, and that's kind of I think part of the policy management of it would be at the current meeting, before the end of the meeting, we agree, we're gonna update. Like you said, chapters 2 and 3 are only 7 pages, maybe we do 2 and 3.
Very short.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get through a first part of the book relatively fast,
Yeah.
and then there's gonna be mostly the energy stuff and probably
Yeah.
the setback stuff are gonna be your 2, those are gonna be your 2 biggest ones, cause that's where things are.
1 month each.
Right, and then the rest of the stuff, some of that stuff's gonna be pretty vague, and some stuff, you know, the only thing to consider with the short stuff is because there's probably not in there, maybe there's stuff that needs to be added, things need to be
Yeah.
updated, so some of them might need more consideration even though they're shorter because there's nothing in them, so.
Yeah, recreation, agriculture, residential, and commercial, and industrial districts are short, 2 pages each. But then you get down into conditional use requirements, special temporary, and your subdivisions, they're 4,
That's 1
they're 4 or
chapter a
5
month.
pages.
But I would just say that a chapter a month is a good.
It's a good way to
Estimate,
move
like, let's use that for a goal, and include that with Joe. Joe should come with some updated verbiage for
And
that
we wanna
chapter
start
while
that
we're
out?
looking through with our
Do
updates.
we wanna come up with a chapter at the end of this meeting and start?
Start moving. What are your feelings?
Might as
Somebody wanna
well.
make a motion to it or what?
Best time to do it's in the winter, I can tell you
I
that.
don't know if you need to necessarily make a motion for it, I
Just
think
let's
if we're
do
all
it.
just in agreement, then I think the big thing is before we leave, if anything, wait till the end of the meeting and let's discuss it a little bit further
Okay,
and decide if that's the chapter, and then if we wanna make a motion to all be in favor of that, then I think let's do
Okay.
that, so.
okay.
I would
Sounds
say
good.
push it to the end of the meeting and we'll discuss it before we.
Okay. Number 4 is section line on the northwest quarter of section 7, township 136, range 78, was tabled December 3rd of 2024. That's on that woodland tract of land north of 1804 on the east side. I drove up and I looked at it and Craig Miller ended up showing up just as I was leaving. We drove back together and looked at it. That section line is not the way he described it, that it's drifted in, that there's a 15-foot drift on the section line. That's like a 15 to 20-foot embankment, a ravine, growing over with trees over the last, since when, you know? So, it's steep, guys. So they go around to the south on that tract right there. And right where he's got his arrow, move your arrow up, right about there, Josh, to the left. There is probably a wheelbarrow, from what I witnessed,
Yeah, not,
of little cement pieces laying there.
right.
Other than that, it's,
Not a lot.
no.
No,
And that ravine going through there, guys, is solid trees, and it's steep.
yep,
That hasn't been traveled through for I don't know how long,
since the
if
thirties.
probably ever,
Well, you don't get tree growth like that.
No.
overnight.
Right, exactly, so.
You had a picture earlier from the fifties or thirties, didn't
Yeah,
you?
it was the fifties and it was still went around it.
Did it?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, they were going around it already, yeah.
See, I was under the thinking the way he described it was it drifted in from the thirties.
Yeah, right.
15-foot embankment, but it's not that.
It becomes an established trail now.
Is it Bowers? Do you know the Bowers? They've got land back in there. And this party to the north also has land to the north of this tract, I don't know, from out east. They've got property in the southeast corner where those trees are at, there's buildings back in there.
Right.
Where's it at? Right there, they own that, the people to the north.
Okay.
They must have had a wildlife deal back in there at one time, raising pheasants, whatever.
Okay.
All I know is I've been a part of an actual scenario like this, and closing off access becomes a very legal conversation, so, and especially when it's over an established period of time, and so as far as the county would be concerned, in my opinion, that right of way, I mean, it exists. I don't know what our obligation is to make sure that that is, you know, drivable. And so, I don't know what the only thing the landowner could probably do would be to close that trail off once it leaves the right of way, but then he's taking the risk of probably being sued.
Probably.
And so, and that's where, you know, it really, in this case, it's probably a civil matter.
Yeah.
It's really not a county matter in a lot of ways, and honestly, if it does go to a civil route, if there's a legal opinion by a judge for the county's obligation, it'll probably come out in that point, and then you could make a decision from there, but that's pretty,
Yeah, I mean, from the county's perspective, you could give him permission to improve that section line, if he
Right.
wants to go out there with some equipment and build it up so that it's drivable, he certainly can, but other than that, I don't see any county obligation.
Okay, well, that's when I drove it, and Miller drove it with me. I mean, there's no way the county can be
it's
responsible.
pretty obvious that obligation, that access hasn't changed in the last 10 years even.
No.
I mean, right, I mean,
No.
it's been 20, 30, 40, 50 years, so now you're starting to have a legal establishment on access to that land, and that's where the county probably get itself in more trouble being active than not doing anything, right? I mean, you hate to advocate for not doing anything, this might be one of those scenarios where you're probably gonna end up causing more trouble doing something, it just.
Yeah, his big concern was, you know, you kind of see where they were
Mhm.
driving out in the field instead of staying on, the roads.
It's been there for years, cause you can
Right.
see the tree rows
Yeah.
are super established, they were probably planted back in the 60s, when they had that soil conservation deal. And
So I
the tree
suppose,
goes in.
yeah, if he wanted to keep them off, you know, worried about keeping them off the existing fields and leave the road, he could put a fence there, you
Well,
know.
there is a steep bank to the south where that road has settled in, it's
Oh, yeah.
pretty hard to get up on the field and
Oh, it is,
get off the road.
so
It's
there's
not
already kind of a border
There's a
there.
berm there,
Yes.
Oh,
where it's washed out,
okay,
and then somebody went along that roadway to get the water that comes off the roadbed.
Right.
They've cut in,
To
you know,
drain the
cuts
water
so
out.
that it goes down into that draw and doesn't continue on that roadbed.
okay,
So you can wash it down into that draw.
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know, not much, yeah, like Joe said, we can give permission, if he wants to fix it, but we're not gonna.
And he was pretty level-headed, this guy, when he came in here.
I thought we pretty much told them, if you wanna take it on, it would be up to you. I think that, we made that fairly clear, but we can't really get involved in it because of,
No,
Yeah, the legality of it, I think.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what more do we have to do on it, just leave it as that, and so be it, we did recognize
there's
it, we go up and
basically-
looked at it.
To my opinion, there's two options. The county goes in, cuts all those trees and rebuilds a road there so they can drive on the right of way, or we don't. I mean, that's literally your two opinions, because if you don't, if access through them trees isn't feasible and they go around and then he blocks that access, all it takes is one landowner down the line to say, hey, I have rights to that land, and then there's a lawsuit, and if you participate in any way, you're just gonna get drug into the lawsuit. So, again, I would suggest doing nothing at this point, because you have a road that's been used for in excess of 20, 30 years. It's been the way it's been. I'd say just leave it, and it's more of a civil matter, in my opinion, on that one, so.
On the fences, on the north side, there's new fences going back, all the way back to where these other buildings are at. Those people on the north side own it. There's a new fence that's set back, I think the 33-foot setback, where the fence is set. And then also then on the south side where they've got fences, that's also set back to 33 feet.
Right.
So it must have all been surveyed at one time.
Right.
Right, I mean, yeah,
Okay, so much for that, we addressed it. Next item is contact with Tanya Weiler for HR consulting.
Yeah,
What is it?
yeah, I just had a comment
Go ahead.
about, Doug Geffroy called me.
Yep.
And remember,
Yep, yep,
we talked about that,
Yep.
spot in the creek
yep,
where it's kinda washed it,
Yep.
and they wanted some rock hauled in there, or he did.
yep.
Well, anyway, he called me and he has some concerns that it's hard to cross, but I told him we really can't start on one section line project without doing about 500 more. But he asked me if the county was, evidently it's slightly dangerous to cross the way it is. If we'd be responsible if something would happen there, saying, well, the road caved in or if they're crossing it, so I don't know.
And you went out to see it.
I did not, no.
I was there. Anybody else there? I drove out and I looked at it on site.
Okay, yeah,
And what it is, it's a section line that goes off the road by that bridge that Industrial Bill was built, will be replacing next summer, or this summer, I should say. To the north, it's on the south side, you go east. You go in maybe, is it an eighth of a mile, quarter of a mile?
okay.
And what it is on that, I don't know, you have the track?
What are you talking about out in here?
It's out there by that main bridge that Industrial Builders will be replacing out
By
east of
Liars.
Starters. By
Oh,
Liars and
yes.
Geffro's and,
Yep,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I don't know the legal on it, the legal description, I have no idea.
yeah, it's gonna be,
it's right by the,
But what it is, it's, there's Beaver Creek,
there's liars.
he'll show it.
washed out, huh?
It's like, here's liars.
yep, so it would be.
So you're talking about the one by,
the bridge up
Yeah,
there.
by the bridge.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
That's the bridge.
Okay, right to the east, the south and east, right there, bring it down. Right right there. That's where it's at. Oh, keep going east a little more.
Right where that oxbow is.
That little
there.
pole there, that little horseshoe.
Right there, huh?
What happens there, guys, Beaver Creek comes flowing from the east and flows west. And it flows across when it comes in with vengeance. And it must come across the road there on the east side.
Okay,
And it scours, you can see where it scoured some dirt out there with that, right there on the right side to the north.
yeah,
It scoured some of it out, and then it's just kinda like an overrun, it comes around and then it comes right back out. And it flows back to the north and west again. But it's eroded some, but it's all grown over with grass, it's not that there's a steep,
Oh,
jagged embankment. They've got their fences setting due to the fact the way the land lays and the creeks. The fences are up close on the south side, you can see the fence line area right there. There's new fences that, what's his name, Lyer put in, and on the north side, Kiefer's got it, Bob Kiefer and his son, they've got new fences there. If they fill it with rock, these guys, there's no way they're gonna be able to put a fence back up on a rock base, there's no way.
no,
I drove that 100 times during deer season this year, there was nothing wrong with that section line.
You've been on it, I've never driven
I
it.
drove it 100 times in the month of November for deer season.
and it's fine.
Nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I mean,
It's a section line.
yeah, exactly. It's not really made for semis and, in my opinion,
I think Doug, they haul hay on it, he said.
They claim, yeah,
Well, anyway, is the county liable if something would happen there and he chipped his hay trailer over?
I don't think you can call hay out of there just by looking at the
I mean,
section line.
are we liable on section lines?
No.
well, here's the problem with that section line, there's a road right
That
here.
goes east, and then
It
it
comes
comes
all the way
south.
around and another road that goes right here,
So
It
you
goes
don't
right back to
have
their house.
do that.
right? So there's all improved roads that are plowed or
All the way
graded
around.
a couple times a year
Okay,
that they can get around and stay off that section line if it's that dangerous.
okay.
You know, I mean, like Jim said, if we start fixing one, we should probably fix 500.
Well, yeah, we can't, you know, yeah, right, I told him that too.
Yeah,
And I reached out to the guys about it,
Yeah.
and we were there, but the more we thought about it, we better not go down this route.
Well, yeah. Well, Joe answered my question, and he told me, well, the county will be liable, and I said, I didn't say either way, you know?
Well, it's not part of our road system, I mean, if we know of a dangerous situation, we can put a road closed sign there.
Yeah.
If that may fall under.
Okay.
Say, we wouldn't close it through traffic, if
Yeah,
people
Right,
travel at their own
And to
risk.
clarify, closing access to that is not closing the section line, those are two different things. Like when people think of closing a section line, they're talking about abandoning the right of way.
right,
That it's still accessible, except, like a good example would be, there's a section line just north of my place where there used to be a bridge. The bridge was in disrepair back when I think Alex John or Nick was the road superintendent, they tore it out. And then we put closed signs on both sides of it. You can access the section, line, you just can't go all the way through it. So the people that need it on the east and west side can
They
utilize
go
it
that
still.
far, yeah.
And that's a scenario where if this road became undrivable in that part, you would probably just, you'd be like, hey, if you need to access on the west side, you gotta come down here. Each said the right of way is still open,
Yeah.
but the dangerous part is mitigated so that people aren't driving through there. So as long as it's not considered dangerous to that point, you can just leave it open. I think that the policy of the board as of late has been, if you want a section line that's exclusive to a couple neighbors, the county will, you know, supervise and allow you to fix it up or maintain it so you can use it, but just to make a short story long, we have 1,200 some miles of road.
Right, right.
But the acceptable thought process to that is that the section lines, although valuable to certain individuals, kind of almost lose their value because we have so much road. You should be
Yeah.
able to make something work, kinda like Commissioner Garza. It's not ideal that you have to reroute 2-3 miles, but you have a pretty solid reroute that's certified, maintained to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
So you can't have all this road and also maintain all these
No, you
sections.
can't
It just
do both.
isn't feasible, and that's why we say, no, it's not to be mean, it's not to pick sides.
No,
Now, the only thing, cause I was contacted by a couple of these folks and they said, well, you're gonna need that road for the bridge construction. If that's a scenario where we're gonna use rock or borrow material and we need to fix that road up to use it for construction, that's a whole nother conversation, which most likely was gonna include a contractor who's gonna wanna do that. And if we wanna work in some kind of partnership to widen it because we need to get construction equipment through for the project, that's a whole nother conversation than just fixing a section line,
yeah.
you know, just to fix it. So if that comes to that, that could be a different conversation, and I would totally respect that conversation differently than just trying to fix one to make sure that it has access for a few neighbors. As important it is to them guys,
Yeah.
like Jim said, you fix one, well, there's, every section line out there's important to 3 to 5 individuals,
Yeah.
where do you stop, and it's
Well, and
just-
And who
it
gets
is,
hurt?
it is
Who
fairly,
gets-
it is fairly accessible with a vehicle, with a typical
Oh,
pickup,
yeah,
there's not a problem.
No,
You know,
Yeah.
not every, you know, there's a lot of section lines that people wouldn't take a hay wagon down or a
Mhm.
cattle pod down or anything down, so this is just another one of those that is,
Yeah,
it's not ideal for hauling a hay trailer or a hay truck down, but it's just fine to get through with a pickup.
pickup.
yeah.
And you can do it because I drove it. There's no way you're gonna haul 30 bales out of there with a stack mover, just
Well,
because of the way it's eroded out.
Okay.
It'll have pressure on one wheel
Could
and
fall.
nothing on nothing else, you know?
Okay.
If it gets to the point where it becomes a danger to the public and it's reported to us, then that would be our obligation to at least go and sign it properly, to either close access to that point
Okay.
or sign it somehow, and
Sure.
that's probably the limits of our liability, so
Yeah.
as soon as that happens, we should know about it, or if our employees find out about it, it needs to get properly handled in that way.
And I talked to two of the other guys at Land,
Yeah.
they said, we don't try everybody to speak of, nor does anybody else, but.
No, Doug was good about it.
Yeah.
Right, I don't think anybody
Well,
was unreasonable, I
If,
agree with that.
if a miracle happens and we do actually get all our roads straightened out and the bridges and the infrastructure all fixed,
And we're all
maybe
bored.
then we can start working on section lines,
Yeah.
but I said until then.
If you want to sum up what I told the guys, I said, it's not no forever, but it's no for now. Because it's still saying we'll never fix it, but it's not looking good, that's all.
Not looking good.
Sounds good
Trying
to
to
me.
be fair.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet, thanks, Jim. The next one is the contract with Tanya Weiler for HR consulting. There is a contract, was it handed out in the
It's
pamphlet?
in your packet.
Okay, I did look at it last night. She said to me, I talked to her yesterday, she indicated to me that she'll be in 2 meetings today, I think she indicated to you too, right?
Right.
That she, if there's any questions on it, feel free to call me, but she said, I don't know if I'll be available to answer any questions. She said the contract is pretty cut and dry. It is what it is, but she's willing to come on to help, the commissioners and the department's heads on this matter.
Joe, contract looks good,
I have an issue with it.
I'll make a motion to accept his contract as written.
Okay, Gardner makes a motion to accept it, second by Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Tanya Weiler is a new HR consulting lady. Next thing is, excuse me,
That's a good movement.
yeah, I think it is too, good. Josh Oden, US Corps of Army Engineers, highway easement, you talked about that, sits north of Bernie Vinge's place, right?
Yep.
Matrix 04?
Yep, so about a half mile, quarter mile north of the Hazelton boat ramp,
Yep,
here's that Vinci lady.
yep,
There's a little drainage here that the state's gonna do some culvert work right here. So they contacted the Corps, cause it's Corps on both sides here. And they found that we still have the easement here. It didn't get transferred to the state. And the reason we think is because this was relocated, this road, it was running right here.
yep.
And then it swung out a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was back in the 60s, I think, when it was
Yep,
a
that's
county
right.
road.
Yep,
So the state got all the right of ways taken care of when they became state highway, but I think they missed these relocation areas. So essentially the Corps just needs a motion from you guys and they'll terminate the easement and then they'll write a new one to the state.
Oh,
At first, they wanted us to do the paperwork to give it to give the easement to the state, but we decided that it's best if we just terminate it, it gets rid of all liabilities. And then they'll write a new one to the state, so. But it's a 75-foot easement that we have currently, that's highlighted all the way along this stretch here, so. And there might be another one, I think there's another one south a little ways, but we'll look into that one later.
so that easement to the north is a wider easement, that's 100 foot.
Yeah, well, there's private on the east side, so these people gave the right of way. But Corps owns both sides, so we got this Corps easement
Okay,
from the east and west of the center line there.
That's gotta be an old easement, huh?
Yeah, that was 60s, the last thing was recorded there was
I was gonna
60s.
say, that's gotta be an old.
this one, When was the highway built? Sixties, seventies, wasn't it?
There's pictures all the way back to the,
70s
I
is
think
when-
the
Is
fifties.
that when 1804 was built in the
I
seventies?
think it was seventies it started.
Okay, okay.
Right,
They did
I
it in
think
segments, I know that.
the old highway, there's pictures dating back all the way to the mid-fifties, I think, on some of the, or some of the earliest aerial photography, I think, on some of that stuff. There, that's,
Was it highway or was it gravel?
well, it's what they called the old highway, and that's where it took the path of least resistance
Right,
before the
right,
modern technology of
right.
equipment, and, you know, and then 1804 got built and kind of cut right through everything.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the old highway had so many loops, and they went around hills instead of
Went
over
around
the top or
province,
through,
yeah.
right, so. I mean, I see no reason to hold on to this easement.
I don't either, do you, Josh?
No, yeah, get rid of it.
I guess I would make a motion to terminate the easement and, release it to the US Corps of Engineers.
Yep.
Okay, neighbor made a motion to that, is there a second?
I'll second.
Unanimous? All in favor of the easement to be dropped?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
I wanna keep the mineral rights though. No, I.
Pretty sure. Well, a lot of them
Can
do
we
it,
do
Dennis.
that? We'd have, I don't know if an easement counts that way.
I was gonna say, let's check it for gravel before.
I was gonna, yeah, we mind 1804
That's a
gravel.
good, I'll tell you, that's a good move. The railroad did it.
Well,
They reserved all minerals and they become wealthy.
I
on
think,
the
I think
easements
if you're gonna
of
get
gravel.
minerals under 1804, that's a bigger battle than you wanna fight.
There's a lot of gravel in that old road, maybe.
Maybe as a part of relinquishing it, we just get gravel for a lifetime.
Exactly.
Can we
Can we
amend
work out a deal with the Corps, they let us mine gravel on their land, or we release this to them?
Yeah.
Good luck. Next item is Christina Sedana, the ag land. It's all yours, Christina.
I
Good
got
morning.
my handouts here, can you give them to you, James?
Thank you.
Pass them. Okay, this is the annual, report from NDSU. The cropland value from NDSU was $910.51. The non-cropland, they're valuing at $163.09. And all ag land, they're valuing at $676.46. And then Emmons averages are $924.38, non-cropland's $165.55, and all ag land is $675.89. So with these values, my recommendation is to stick with a 92% tolerance, which would be the same as last year. And then on your last sheet in there, it shows the last 5 years, what we've done for tolerances. In 21, we did 93% tolerance, 22, 23, 93% tolerance, and last year, like I said, 92% tolerance. And then the top grid, you can see what the different tolerance levels would make the values at for this year. So, punching all the numbers in the system, 92 is the best bet.
Is the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, and just,
If anybody's got discussion, go ahead.
I guess I like to always bring this up because it's kind of a misconception or an ununderstood part of this, which I'm no expert at it, cause it's not an easy process, but NDSU calculates these land valuations, and we are obligated by law to stay within 90 to 100%.
Right.
Generally, we've tried to stay on the low end of 90%, but you don't wanna be right at 90, cause then you're constantly adjusting, where it seems like 92, 93% where we've been, it's a small adjustment to maintain your legal obligation. If we don't change it to 92%, the land valuations still go up, and the property taxes still go up. So, which I guess a little bit of a save my own skin argument is the fact that we're not raising the land valuations. This
It's
is
not.
coming from NDSU and their calculations, which, my understanding, about 10 people or less in the state actually understand this calculation algorithm, so it's not in our hands. Our job is, once they give us the valuations, we have to stay within this percentage tolerance by state law, so.
Yeah,
I just say that because they're like, we keep raising our land, well, we didn't raise
We
the
didn't raise
valuation, we're trying to stay within this legal tolerance, and we're staying at 92%, not 98, 99.
yeah.
So we are lowering it as much as we probably can without getting ourselves in trouble and having to adjust, so. More of an explanation as to how it works, just because it's not easy to comprehend, because technically we are raising them because we're a part of this process, but we didn't raise the valuations, and I don't think land valuations have gone down,
No,
and probably won't.
Well, wasn't there a major adjustment where the state forced the county to make this drastic adjustment like 4 or 5 years ago?
Well, there has been several adjustments, one of them was the soils changes, which was a
Yeah.
policy statewide
Yeah,
change a few
yeah,
years
yeah.
ago,
We
which,
got audited, and we were still good, but we had to switch to the new soil map,
Yeah.
which soils change, they had different productive index values, which
Yeah.
helps
Yep, yep.
set that average. So there were some big changes
and
then.
then the other big adjustment, which I know because my dad was a commissioner at that time, was that they were really trying to stay on the edge, almost too low.
Too low.
And then what happened was, is I believe there was one year where we were at like 88 or 89%, the commissioners are like, kind of played chicken with the state, and the state equalization board forced them to do it. When they force you to move, they don't move you to 90 or 91%, they move you to like 95 or 96%, so they ended up having to do like an 8 or 9% adjustment one year, maybe it was even more than that. And then that was, so, you saved money for a year or two, but then the state forced you to move it 7, 8% one year. As far as any kind of business,
avoid that.
it's far more palatable to accept 1 or 2% a year than 7, 8% one year, so that's why after that, the county's acceptable mode is always to stay in the low 90s%, which, so we're only adjusting it 1%, maybe even none if it's a negligible adjustment, but anyway, I just wanted to explain that, cause sometimes it's not, it's not widely known, this is a part of the process,
Right.
and it's again why I argue that the state has more control over property taxes than they claim.
yes.
They like to blame the local subdivisions, and we all earn our fair share of blame too, but some of these laws and limits force you to be in a scenario where you're like, well, we could make a budget on 88%, well, they wouldn't let us, it doesn't matter, so.
So your recommendation is 92%, you
Yep.
need a motion from us,
Yep.
and I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Jim Gardner makes a motion to accept the 92%
I will
level.
second that.
Seconded by Magrum, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next is Clint Sherm, NextEra Energy Resources. It's an overview and presentation of battery storage project. Morning, guys.
Morning, how are you? We have some handouts too, if you guys like.
Yeah, not more than us, it's probably easier to
Start
answer
on that
the
side
question.
there, yeah.
Yep, he can,
The donuts that are brought into effect, so this should be easy.
We should get a bite.
Getting there.
well, in their defense, I've never seen anybody eat a donut with a frown, so. It's usually a good way to start a meeting, is give them a donut.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Is there sound you want, or?
No, no sound or anything.
Full screen then?
That's it.
Well, guys, I guess it's yours.
All right, appreciate it. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having us. Thanks for letting us take up some of your time. I'm obviously a new face to all of you. I think you probably have met Clay Cameron before, who works with us as well, and I think Sarah had also come with Clay, I think earlier last year to present this project, just kind of give you guys a heads up that was coming. Purpose Day, as we're getting things prepared for applications, following your existing ordinances, just wanted to kind of give you guys an overview of what battery storage is, also to kind of go into some of the national regulations and national governances that we follow for the engineering, siting, setbacks, things that cover battery storage outside of local, and just to go over some of the safety features and safety concerns with these. My name's Clint Sherb, I'm one of the lead developers for NextEra. I'm new to the North Dakota portfolio here, joined by my friend here, Evan, and colleague who will introduce himself here shortly. My prior background included military, I was 8 years in the United States Marine Corps. After college, went into law enforcement, did 12 years as a deputy sheriff in Palm Beach County, Florida. And, after business ownership and COVID, went into project management, here with Nextera. So yeah, happy to be here and, really appreciate you guys, letting us come here. Project, Emmons Logan Energy Storage Project, located over by 21st Ave and 72nd Street Southeast. We have a purchase option for 15-acre parcel that is directly adjacent to the substation there that's already existing from the wind project. So one of the big things of this is we try to site these right next to the substations, right next to existing infrastructure. No need for additional transmission lines, you know, we're small footprint. So we have a 15-acre parcel directly adjacent to the substation. This project is a 140 megawatt, 4-hour battery energy storage project. We'll get into kind of explanation on that, but it's 560 megawatt hours is the total energy that this has. Targeted date for commercial operation would be December of 2026, and the project lifespan would be about 30 to 35 years. You guys know us. Nextera, we've been here for several years. I think the wind project went up, 2018, 2019, something like that. You know, everything I've heard, obviously, I haven't had the pleasure to be part of it, but, you know, sounds like we've had a great relationship with the county and we've been good stewards of the project. We're looking to build on that, and I hope to be a good positive part of that as well. In North Dakota, obviously, nationwide, we have quite a large portfolio. Stemming from nuclear, wind, natural gas, solar, battery, other emerging technologies. We obviously have quite a portfolio throughout the United States and a large investment in capital. Same in North Dakota. We've been partners here in North Dakota since 2003. We have now 16, I think 17 now wind operating sites here, with one in construction and 4 others in early stage development right now. This is amongst one of 2 battery storage projects that we are in development for in North Dakota. And you can see some of the other accolades from our time here in North Dakota and some of our capital investments here. This is just representing batteries only, the battery storage facilities that we do currently have across the United States. We have just over 50 operating batteries, and I forget how many in construction, because there's a lot coming soon. But just to show this isn't a brand new project for us. It is a kind of newer topic, I think. Nationally, it's a newer topic, but it's not something new to us. It's something we've been building and developing for quite a while. I have Evan here, and he's going to be able to explain some of the benefits and kind of more of the why. Why do we need battery storage?
Yep. So hi everyone, quick introduction. My name's Evan Shea. I work on the storage integration team as a project manager. My background, I have master's degrees in business administration and science at the School of Environment at University of Michigan. So am used to the cold a bit more than Clint is. Good to be here. And yeah, wanted to start out by walking about why are battery storage being developed, and then go into you know, the general benefits to utilities, and move into what these things look like and the safety measures behind them. So, you know, as Clint mentioned, really they are can be viewed as an extension of the substation, in which they are making sure that power is flowing whenever it is needed. So, you know, in the case of wind, you'll see that sometimes it will be curtailed even though it's windy outside. Maybe there's not enough demand on the grid in order for that energy to keep flowing on. Having a battery at the substation allows for greater generation and then energy flowing whenever we're actually turning on the lights, you know, in the morning at peak times, or, you know, when we're coming home from work. as a reference point to, every, about 1 megawatt hour is equivalent to powering about 27 homes per day, so just as a reference point there. We talk about grid support. Battery storage is really flexible and being able to charge or discharge within seconds. Utilities really like having this flexibility to be able to balance the grid. So at all times, we need to have generation and load equal, and battery storage allows for that balancing better than other technologies that are available. So talking about energy shifting here, charging whenever energy is plentiful and then discharging whenever it's needed most, that aligns with prices as well. So it's charging whenever prices, local electricity prices are lowest, and then discharging when higher. So the effect of that, or the impact of that, is lower overall energy costs for customers and households. And then looking at also at what utilities care about. So they care about keeping, the bills low, and then making sure that they have a diverse grid, resource mix in order to ensure energy independence. And in order to do that, you'll need to have, different resource types in order to make sure that there is this balance of energy flowing into the grid whenever it's needed. We also talk about these ancillary services, so being able to, again, make sure that frequency regulation is occurring and keeping the lights on at all times. Battery storage is really helpful on that front. So we've talked a couple of times about megawatts and megawatt hours, so just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page here. So when we're talking about power, or the megawatts, so in this case 140 megawatts battery, and then we have the using this water tank example, the tank would be the energy capacity, so that would be measured in the megawatt hours. So 560 megawatt hours would be for a 4-hour battery at 140 megawatt. And really the point here to take away is, we talk about 4-hour batteries because really that is what the grid is in need of at this time. So we're not talking about building a larger battery because really it's, these shorter peaks of energy demand in the mornings and evenings that these storage systems are used for.
This came up, in our conversations, there always seems to be a disconnect. When we say 4-hour battery, I think in people's minds right off the bat, it's like we're doing all this work just for 4 hours of energy. And so this really what we're trying to explain here is when we said the 560 megawatt hours, it would be 4 hours if you were to open that faucet at full 100%. It would take 4 hours for that tank to discharge. But if you put that to 50% closed of that valve, it would take 8 hours, and so on and so forth. And that's that 27 houses per day figure comes from, if you take that and multiply it by the 560 megawatt hours is more what it's getting. So total capacity here could power over 15,000 homes for a whole day, or 7,500 homes for 2 days, all the way, keep going up there. But this is just the better explanation of kind of where that 560 is and why is it 4 hours and, things like that.
Yep, thanks Glenn. So to get a better picture of what these things look like, and we do have a couple of photos at the end as well, just showing actual batteries that we've developed. But you'll have these 4 components of a storage system. So it starts at the cell level, and then those are then packaged into modules that are slotted into racks, and the racks are in these containers, which kind of look like storage units, storage containers.
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind here too is, from a safety standpoint, each of these components are their own sealed components, and that helps with the, if there is an event, it helps with the spreading of that event, because each individual section of this is a sealed container itself. And within these, there's sensors, thousands of sensors, and, Evan will get into kind of more. Yes, sir?
Can I ask a question as
Absolutely.
long as we're onto this? these battery units itself, do you have to have a berm around it and a liner in case there's a leak on these batteries?
No, sir.
There's nothing?
No, sir.
Okay.
There's no acid in it, right? They're all dry cell.
That's right.
They're all dry cell?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and they go, you know, NFPA 55, we'll get into that,
Okay.
kind of goes into, the groundwork, you know, it goes in everything, setbacks between containers, what type of ground, what type of fencing, I mean, it goes through everything, but, to answer your question, no berms
Okay.
or, yeah, no concerns with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and moving the conversation into safety, so safety is our number one priority. We wanna make sure that all of our 600+ employees in North Dakota and communities are safe. So we take this approach in a couple of ways. So Clint mentioning, you know, each of those 4 components are tested rigorously before they are put into operation. So the cells are tested, the modules, the racks, and then also at the container level. Once they are in operation, they're being continuously monitored. So Clint mentioned all the sensors. So 24/7, 365, we have a team that's remote at our headquarters that is monitoring all of the units. And so this is more of a preventative piece. So should there be any abnormalities, they're able to shut down specific pieces of the system remotely, and then we will also have in-person on the ground if needed. But the idea here is they are being monitored at all times during the day. They're tested before, and then should an event take place, we do have first responder training in order to make sure that everyone is understanding how to respond in case of an event. And we can get into that in the last couple slides.
Yeah, and this is showing a picture of that, facility that we have for the monitoring. This is part of that monitoring 24/7. And while you're looking at that, just to touch real quick on the first responder and, cause I didn't touch on it in here and I should have, but, if an event were to happen, this is not a battle, it's not a firefight, it's a monitor and contain, make sure it doesn't spread. There have been some recent incidences that have come up. I think there was one just a couple weeks ago. And so I wanna touch on some of the air quality that has been going on with that. I can provide you guys with, air quality testing that went on from the EPA during those. But with these and just where it's going, there's no fire suppression system in these, there's no water, so you don't have to worry about the water hitting the project, hitting the, facility and then going into the ground. It's a monitor, maintain, and, contain. So, we're not asking firefighters to go into the facility, we're not asking anybody to get anywhere near unless there was some type of exigent circumstance that required that, but, these are.
If there was a specific circumstance that required that, I assume you don't roll out there with a fire truck and start spraying water on a bunch of batteries.
Correct.
So then a foam, a dry chemical,
No,
nothing, you just let it,
they're
if it
designed-
starts to spread, you just let it burn to the ground.
they're designed to burn out, and they're spaced in accordance with the National Fire Protection Association, 855, so that should there be an event, they cannot spread. So they're tested
They cannot spread.
from container to container.
Where do the chemicals go that were in there?
So
They dissipate. Well, if you're talking about like off gas and stuff, the gases that do come off of these, they dissipate immediately.
Yep, so about 70% of that is hydrogen and carbon dioxide. And then, to a lesser extent, there is a few other chemicals that dissipate quickly, hot air rises, and because, this is really, securing the perimeter around, there is no impact from an air quality piece. And there should not be any water being used on these, and that's why there's this first responder training and fire department training before construction and annual trainings as well.
Well, I've gotta ask them because I'm thinking these batteries are totally different than what they use in electric vehicles, correct?
Correct.
Totally,
Okay.
because they had that major fire in Maui
Correct,
And that was
and these aren't
amazing.
driving 85 miles an hour and, you know, these aren't going over bumps their whole life and getting treated like crap. I mean, yeah, these are totally different. Now we're piggybacking on the research and development that's obviously gone on to just batteries in general from that industry. But that coupled with our research development, our time of installing these, and FPA coming out and having, which by the way, I brought this for you guys, so I'm gonna leave this with you guys as well. You know, completely different system, completely different.
It's stationary, and to your point, so they're not going around, and then there's thermal management systems as well, so they're kept at the same temperature.
So
So
there's no-
much different from an EV,
Right.
right, that's going around, staying outside.
No lithium in it,
So we do use lithium ion technology. We look through different technologies that are available. All of them are in accordance with the National Fire Protection Association's codes, so they are all rigorously tested in order to comply with whatever the most strict standards are available.
One
So,
question,
go ahead.
through the years, I've had a couple batteries explode on me. And boy, that's a tremendous explosion just with a 12-volt battery. It would seem to me if they would explode, they'd blow that container open wide.
Well, actually, there's actually a lot of things in the design of these. When you're talking about explosion, I mean, this
Yeah.
quite different. I mean, I'll say the devices that we have in our homes and in our, they're not monitored by a team of engineers, you know, for any little anomaly as well. That's one of the big differences is our components are, you know, as we went through those slides, each different component is its sealed container. You know, each of those is also monitored for any small anomaly, so with the rock and with the monitoring, we can shut it down. We can shut down even just a small part of it if there's any type of anomaly before it goes into any type of runaway situation. And the other point on this too, I mean, design features to these containers also address that. So the roof has, I can't pronounce it, it's deflagration. Anyway, the roof will be the first thing to go, so it would actually go up and out, not from the doors.
Wide.
Correct. Yeah, but there's a lot of other things, and I'd be happy to come back another time, or outside of a meeting, we can bring some of the engineers and kinda go over the designs and things like that too. It's pretty amazing, like, technology going on here. I mean, it's, yeah.
Do you have some sites where you've had some major hiccups?
No, sir, I mean, we have 50 sites, we've had one incident, thus far. We have over 50 in operation right now, we've had one. So, I mean, we're the largest,
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine, I was just, since we're kind of on the subject of
Yep.
safety and all this, what's the disposal scenario, like say a cell or a module goes bad, are you disposing it off-site specifically somewhere, are you looking to, cause that, I mean, with 15 acres, I assume you're not gonna wanna dispose of them right there, so what's your guys'?
Yeah, there is a lot that gets recycled now.
Assume you're not just throwing them in the creek. I'm not-
Correct, yes, yes, sir.
But I mean, with being a specialized battery,
Yes.
you must have some kind of disposal scenario.
And there's some recycling measures now the battery's being used more, there's a lot of components that can be recycled, there's a lot of things that can be reused here, but, there's also, and I don't think it's NFPA 55, but, there are a lot of other regulations on the disposal, and obviously that's stuff too.
So
But we're not just
the
burying
cliff,
them.
right, cliff notes would be you're probably hauling them off-site to a specific location.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
They're hazardous material recognized as or no?
I would assume, I don't know the specific, I don't wanna answer to that without looking and getting a definite answer, but, you know, they would be handled in accordance with every, national regulation for hazmat or, you know, anything. I mean,
because just specific to the permitting of it, obviously the disposal's gonna be.
Correct,
So if
yeah.
if it's acknowledged that you're hauling it to Bismarck, Fargo, Omaha, wherever your
Correct.
place is, you need to properly dispose of it, that's just the big question.
Yeah,
Yep.
right, yeah, offsite.
And we can definitely get you more.
And that's fine, just not that the idea was like, oh, it's kind of assumed that
Right.
an acre of this is gonna.
Better
be
not
a
assume
big
things
hole,
these
and it's like,
days.
no, I
Yeah,
don't, I just for
yeah.
clarification, cause what happens is after this meeting, there's somebody
Yeah.
that will come up
Oh,
with
yeah.
some scenario, and it's like, well,
course.
it may be true and it may not be, so I just thought I'm gonna be blunt.
Yeah, I
with it.
appreciate that, yes.
Good one.
Here's some examples, was there anything else you want to add to the, some examples here, just some of our battery sites. You know, we're growing, as we get more of these, we're getting more pictures, but these are the ones that have been selected for this, so. You can kinda get a feel for what this one would essentially look like. You see they're co-located with substations. So these are, from a technical standpoint, viewed as an addition, as a additional component to a substation, upgrade to the grid into the substation. So we try to place them as close as possible.
This unit would match the number of wind towers that are out there then to
No, this,
expand?
so we're going through the final, not final, we're going through the preliminary design right now. Some of these, with the containers, it could be a span, you know, between 90 and 130 containers. It's not, they're not directly correlated to the turbines. So it's separate from the wind site. This charges from the grid and discharges to the grid. But there's no correlation between containers and turbines.
Well, all these turbines are different in size, are they not?
Yes, sir, yeah, yeah, they're rated by how many, what megawattage they can produce.
Right.
So the old ones, you'd be looking at like 1.2s, now you're looking at 3.8s, you know. I think that's it. Is there any questions? Sorry to take up everybody's, so much of everybody's time, but if there's any questions, I mean, we're happy to.
You're within your agenda allotment, so you're.
Are we good? All right.
You got
See,
seven-
from this side, it
minutes
feels
left.
like a lot longer, you know?
That's cause we've been grilling you.
Is anybody, I'll just do it.
So what stage are you at? I mean, just to be fair, I mean, are you looking to permit this pretty soon? Or
Yes, sir, yes, sir. I mean, that would, you know, we'd like to open up the conversation here, you know, following your existing ordinances, you know, we would put in for the conditional use, permit for, basically same thing we did for the substation that is currently there. Keep it agricultural zoned, and we'll submit applications for a conditional use permit, and do the hearings, do all that.
What kind of a timeline are you looking at? Maybe it was in your handout, but what's your,
So, you know, following the obligations to the customer, the grid, the transmission owners, COD is being targeted for December 2026. That'd be commercial operation date, meaning it's running, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
so your timeline roughly would be to start construction either late fall or early spring, either late fall this year, early spring of next year, assuming a timeline of how long it
Right,
takes.
with winter schedules the way they are,
Sure.
and the state kind of regulations on, groundbreaking, you know, once it gets to a certain temperature that the soil can't be, topsoil and bottom soil can't be, you know, separated, and so ideally we would be starting groundwork in September. Try to get the groundwork, civil work done before the winter schedule starts, and then we'd come back in, you know, March, whatever, to kind of complete there.
Speaking of winter, do you have any of these up in an area that gets as cold as we do?
We do in Canada,
And
yes.
they have no issues?
There's, you know, they have heaters, they have,
Okay.
yeah,
So they have thermal
Airflow.
management systems, so each container has its own HVAC, so you can see on that top
Yeah,
right
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if they're exactly the same, but I think there's something similar like this out at the pumping station for Dapple.
Is it?
And
What's
it's,
the
they have like a climate controlled storage container for different pieces of infrastructure, but probably not, I think if I remember right, when we did the tour, there's maybe a dozen, I don't even know if there's that
oh,
many.
where was that?
It's out at the pumping station for the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Okay.
Just
West of town here, 4 miles.
4 miles west
Okay.
of the north
But
side.
I mean, so, it's not like the county doesn't have something, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it's cause we got to tour them when they finished that project, and they're lightly air conditioned in the summer and lightly heated in the winter,
Right.
essentially, to keep it at a
Yeah,
specific temperature,
yeah.
and that So there is something out there that exists.
I was just curious, I know my lithium ion batteries out of my trailer don't work very well.
No, neither does your cell phone when you leave it in your pocket if it's real cold.
I know,
Yeah.
I think about it all the time, but I'll tell you, as this technology grows, we're gonna see the technology and all of our stuff grow as well.
Yeah.
And so I'm kinda looking forward to the more of these go and not really having to worry about that. Maybe I only have to charge my, phone once a week,
Yeah.
when the technology grows, but anyway.
How does this system compare to, say, an air storage battery system?
Okay, so it does the same thing functionality wise, but, it's actually storing electrons, whereas, if you're looking at a water, or air, or I've seen even like stone, the idea is, with those, it's taking the energy, it's powering those air compressors, and then later they release that air into a turbine, I would imagine, and that's what spins it. So it's kind of the same thing, we're taking the unused electrons off the grid, which allows all forms of energy to keep producing, and as those electrons store in batteries, then we return the air on later when everybody's home, when the demand's at its peak, and,
I guess with the air, I was just looking at less chemicals risk.
I don't know enough about it to be able to answer that fully, but
You made a statement about stone, what do you mean stone?
there's been a lot of different types of energy storage throughout time. Yeah, instead of an air pump, they had, this kinda gets off topic, but, they had a winch that would power a pulley that pulled a stone up to the ceiling, and they would have a warehouse of these things. I mean, I would hate to work in this facility just thinking one of these is gonna drop on my head everywhere, but, yeah, so, and then when they wanted to, regain the energy, they'd release a stone, and as it's dropping, it's spin, so there's been a lot of pretty unique ways of accomplishing this, and this is gonna be, definitely to date, the best, I mean,
This
for the
is
most.
state of the art.
State of the art, I mean, absolutely. We talk about from a safety standpoint, the engineering and designs that goes into this now, it's like, I can't think of anything else today that has more technology in it for like keeping things safe and keeping things monitored and, other than, I don't know, maybe a spaceship, I don't know. But yeah, technology, a lot of research, a lot of design, obviously a lot of regulations have gone into it to get it to where it's at today, so.
You have, 5.9 million in property taxes, is that paid from you or from the state to us? Is there?
From Nextera.
There's no 10-year.
That's, so a lot of these, this is our company's, annual payroll to our employees, involved in North Dakota portfolio, these would be specific to North Dakota.
Any other questions, guys?
Just so again, with the timeline that you stated, you're probably looking at some kind of permitting this summer then?
We would look to probably start, I'd like to talk with the staff and, I haven't obviously had a chance to meet you guys before, I apologize for that, but, I would like to pick up that conversation and just get a dialogue going and figure out, what and how, and, time is not just for us, time is for the transmission owner, we don't just think about these projects and say, let's put one of these up and see if we can find somebody to buy it. These come directly from the transmission owners, from the people running the grid to say, hey, we have a forecast here that in this year we need to add X amount of capacity or X amount of reliability so that, the grid system can stay reliable and optimal. So this was slated by that process, so now we're citing it. It's been cited, I think, for a couple of years, it's been cited, we do a lot of studies, environmental and all that stuff.
Well, the push is really coming with these service centers, is it not?
The
Service
data centers?
Data centers?
Part of it, that's definitely part of it. The push as, data center is just like any other consumer of energy. So whether it was a data center or an Amazon, they both need energy.
and more manufacturing coming online in general, so as the US brings on more manufacturing, just a higher, demand for electricity.
Cause these data centers are hungry for power.
They are.
They are, yeah. You know, we'll see what happens with those. You know, it's kind of a newer topic, I think, all around, but, you know, again, so was Amazon. When Amazons and Walmarts were popping up everywhere, we had to figure out how to power those too. So it'll be another challenge, but this is gonna be there to meet it.
The components for these are made where, in the United States, rather
All over,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
they're
we have-
assembled in the United States.
assembled.
A diverse supply chain.
As far as you understand with the regulatory scenario, do you have to amend your permit to the current wind farm? Or is this like a separate permitted project, not county-wise, but with the Public Service Commission, do you have to like amend, is this a part of the wind?
We're gonna we would submit a new, site compatibility certificate application with the NDPSC.
So this is essentially a separate project within the footprint of the.
Correct.
So it's not like an amendment to that permit?
No, sir, no. And we're gonna submit a separate CP application, we would submit a separate, North Dakota PSC application as well. And that's another good point to bring up is, you know, outside of the local permitting and siting, you know, the state also has to give us a siting, compatibility certificate as well, so. You know, but yeah, I mean, we just wanna make sure, we're gonna leave this here with you, I mean, if you guys want to, read through it, it's
It's real simple reading.
totally, yes, yes, there's pictures for the big words and everything.
I hear they were so impressed with us, man. We don't read so well, good.
But yeah, I mean, next steps,
Big letters.
I could delegate you.
next steps, you know, I'd love, after this, get some more, contact info and, you know, come up here, sit down a couple more times. I like to meet with, emergency management,
Yeah.
obviously. You know, road department, you know, start meeting with everybody and just see what it's gonna take to make this smooth and, you know, yeah.
And when you talk to the emergency responders, you're open with them, and what they need is furnished to them before the project starts.
Yes, yeah, I mean, training, like, equipment wise, that there's not, you know, if there's needs of first responder, I mean, we do a lot nationwide through our portfolio to help beef up training or, assets or, equipment, you know, things like that. Especially coming from law enforcement myself, which now the donuts probably make more sense to you guys, but, you know, yeah, I mean, we'll definitely, if there was ever a need like that, but, you know, for this, it's a containment and monitor, you know, thing. But it's an annual, ongoing, refreshing training and yeah, I mean, we definitely, we don't want first responders to be going into something they don't know about at all.
Right.
And we don't want them to be going into this, period. And so we're gonna make sure they know both of those scenarios and they know what they're up against if in a very, very, very small chance that they had to. We're gonna make sure that they're prepared for it, so.
Just an FYI, the fire department likes their donuts in a can, so just so you know that.
Fire departments where I'm going, they have people that just serve them, you know, wherever they go, so. Anyway, any other questions?
Anything else, guys?
Thank
Okay.
I appreciate your time,
Thanks,
guys.
appreciate it, guys, thank you.
Do you
Thanks
guys
for the
have
donuts.
business cards?
Yes, I'll leave some, yeah. We'll stick around too and I'll make sure I get,
You can just give it to Josh.
okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is Tony Holzer, Emmons County Senior Services Update. You can take the main chair, Tony.
Okay. I have Becky Keller with me yet too.
Okay.
Pass these out, Terry. There's
Your
another.
name is what?
Give Marlis one
Becky
too,
Thatcher
and,
Keller,
Okay, I'll meet you.
Joe.
Executive Director for the.
Oh, okay, good.
I know, getting my exercise today.
Okay,
I'm
so.
sorry, but I didn't bring no donuts this morning.
The next time,
Next time, Tony. Normal rules from the senior
Okay, okay, just gonna let you know, some of you know about, last Monday on January 27th, the State Director on Aging contacted myself and Becky Keller. Becky Keller is the director for the senior meals program down there, okay? We hired her to do that, she's doing a very good job. Matter of fact, that's what the State Director said too. Anyway, we had a meeting there on Kidder County Commissioners on the 28th of January at 1 o'clock. And the State Director called that meeting and she reported to the commissioners about problems with the KEST program, Emmons County Senior Services, problems with financial reports, releasing money to Emmons seniors, and bad business decisions in closing down meal sites. After much heated discussion with the State Director, board members, and guests, the commissioners ordered the Secretary Treasurer to pay, from KISS to pay Emmons County Senior Food Services the sum of money that's stated on there from savings. That was earmarked for Emmons County, it's just they wouldn't release it until somebody told them to do it. Anyway, and then also an audit was asked for after that. I imagine it's gonna take till the middle of the summer. I don't know if we're gonna be getting any more funds out of that. I'm gonna guess Marlis's counterpart will contact. Have you been in contact with Jean since that meeting?
I talked to her just the other day.
Okay.
She didn't really say too much, she just.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's unclear whether we're gonna be getting any more funds other than that amount stated on there. Also, as of February 1st, the Kidder County Commissioners have asked for all board members from that area, which I was a part of for a while, and that director up there to resign. The commission was gonna appoint all new members up there. They wanted a whole new clean slate. And that's where it was at. Becky and I left after that, and right now we're sitting financially okay with contributions we've got from the local area, plus that funding we got out of the treasury. We got a check that day from them. And but you know, it kind of remains to be seen in the future with the state telling us what we have to update in the kitchen down there, plus startup costs and all that. But for now, we're sitting financially okay. And I just wanted to let you know, we got the majority of our funds out of that outfit, so.
Good work.
Okay.
Good. Did you get was the equipment split also? That you had a vested interest in or no?
You guys remember before when they started taking equipment up. And at that time, we locked the doors, and they decided to leave everything as is. Yeah.
Good. Cause you attended one of the meetings, didn't you, over at Steel?
I attended a heated
Yeah.
meeting in about July-ish or so, where we, I would say that everything Tony had come in and told us about that board was absolutely correct. It was very dysfunctional, and not to insult individuals on that board, but as a board, it was very dysfunctional. If the Kidder County Board of Commissioners asked them all to resign, I would say that was probably a mostly good move. There was personal issues, misunderstanding on the obligations of that board, that current board just wasn't functioning properly. Not to insult any individuals on it, but, yeah, kudos to Tony for coming through with that. And I think I think Emmons County being on its own with that is gonna be a far better thing, you know. I mean, when you gotta threaten a board to tell them the sheriff's gonna throw them in a cell if they come down and try and take stuff out of your building, that's not a very good relationship to have anyway. It's pretty hard to rebuild off of that, so, that was kinda the meeting that I attended anyway, so yeah, I think it would be good, and, I don't know exactly how the process has to go, but there is, Marlis, correct me if I'm wrong, it probably would have to go to a ballot, but there is some room to increase for senior services in Emmons County, but I believe it has to go to the ballot, so that is another revenue source to explore at least, if that's something, I don't know exactly all the details, but essentially if you get a ballot measure put together, proper signatures, I'm assuming, and it gets on the ballot, it could be voted on to increase that mill levy, which would open up some more funds for you, continual, not just fundraising type, so, it's taxpayer dollars, but of course it goes to a vote, so that would be.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments on this too. Because of the financials that were not done correctly, Burley County Senior Services has taken all of the records back to 2020 to do a complete reevaluation of all of those records, because in 2020 is when all the COVID money came out. And they felt that there was a lot of money that was actually given throughout the state for COVID funds that should have accounted for more for the services. And so they're gonna go back and do all of that. Once all of that is through or done to the end of 2024, then they have talked about doing a complete audit. So it will take a while before we actually know what the financials are gonna be. The money that was actually provided this round was designated as Emmons County. The board, their executive director, actually, their secretary treasurer said that the majority of that was still tax levy funds from Emmons County. But because they hadn't kept everything correctly designated in their financial report, there was some misunderstanding of how much money is actually supposed to come back. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that there will be some additional money coming back, but nothing says that there will be. And then we will be required to pay for half of the audit because it's Emmons County too. So we won't know for quite a while yet what we're gonna be doing. But we've really been doing well at the center. We ended up purchasing a blast furnace, or blast freezer, excuse me. And as a result, we are able to provide frozen meals at the center. And like, I think it was yesterday, 58 meals went out just for people coming in for frozen meals. So it's going to be another opportunity for us to provide the services to the county people, and then also it's another, with the reimbursement, it's revenue for us. So that's really good. One of the bad things is we lost one of our full-time cooks, so we're struggling with part-time positions and things like that, but we'll have to deal with that. But overall, the meals are better. We're using a lot fresher supplies and food, which I had no idea why we were all the time having to provide canned vegetables. And it's like, that's what they gave us. And so we were doing a lot more fresh frozen type of meals and stuff. And so it's working out really well. We're getting more numbers. And so that's gonna help in the long run too. And then Tony did an awesome job. Go and tell him about Strasburg.
Just to let you know, in late February here, we set a time where we're gonna deliver Meals on Wheels to Strasburg. Okay, that's never been done before, so we're gonna start out with that. We got 3 volunteers so far. One of them is gonna have to go back to work in the spring, so I'm gonna have to look for another one, but just to let you gentlemen know that, okay?
Yeah, I commend you guys on all the work you've done,
Big time.
and keep your foot on the gas, because you've put a big spotlight on how important this is to our community with paper and some donations, and like I said, just keep your foot on the gas, you're doing good work.
Thank you.
And, it's awesome that this is starting to work out.
And one way you can tell is, yes, you talked about contributions from the community.
Yep.
They have pitched in big time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think they will continue if need be, because this is an important issue. You know, we have a community that's aging, the whole county's aging, so, thank you very much.
Okay?
Thanks for coming,
Okay.
you guys, if you're after.
We'll bring donuts next time.
Caramel rolls, caramel rolls.
Fresh, not that big. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions?
No, okay, thank you.
Great work, guys.
Yeah, good job. Next on the agenda is Francis Crum, correction to previous meeting.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for putting me on the agenda today. I'd like to make a correction to the public record and comments made by Commissioner Magrum at the January 7, 2025 meeting, part 1 on the video from 154 to 155. Commissioner Magrum stated in a conversation he was having with Road Superintendent Russ Lawler, quote, "Another reason why we moved this direction was because we had 120 frost blow-offs, whatever it was, when Francis had taken over. We had fixed those without properly documenting them, and we missed out upon tens, if not hundreds, of thousands of dollars because we did not follow the proper process, because we didn't have people in place to track that. We just went out, did the work, which was great. We fixed the spots, we did the job. Then later on, when money becomes available, we didn't track every location, and that's why they brought the idea of GPS and gave the guys common phones instead of their own personal phones. Those were the processes." That's the end of the quote. When I started as a road superintendent, I had a conversation with Mary Sanger, Emmons County Emergency Manager, who recommended the county supply all road department employees with county-owned cell phones. The reason was in case of any open records requests that their personal information would not be jeopardized. So this had nothing to do with frost boils, Commissioner Magrum. With the help of Mary Sanger and other FEMA, all grade operators were trained to locate and measure each of the frost boil sites accurately. The process included finding the start and stop latitudes, the start and the stop longitudes, in each frost boil. The employees did an excellent job of locating the frost boils and providing all the paperwork required by FEMA. When all the locations of the frost boils was completed, the paperwork was turned over to Mary Sanger and she filed it with FEMA. According to the conversation I had with Mary Sanger, FEMA did not cover the frost boils in Emmons County during that time period. It was not because we, the road department, didn't follow the correct process. She even filed the paperwork a second time after it was initially denied, but it was also denied a second time. There were actually 309 frost boils, but only 109 needed to be repaired. The actual cost of those 109 repairs was $518,159.82. The other 200 frost boils only needed grading. When I started as a road superintendent, there was no paperwork or time cards kept by the employees. The commissioners agreed that the road department needed to have paperwork and documentation, so they hired Kelly Crum, my wife, to do the paperwork. Every hour of every work day over the course of 20 and 21 was documented by each employee. The time cards listed what each employee was doing, which piece of equipment was used, and the hours spent on each task. This information was then used to provide the cost of each road repair project. Books were compiled that contained all the annual road projects completed by the road department and each employee's man hours. That would be these books right here. And this is just for 1 year. For the years of 20 and 21. In 2020, the road project book had 337 pages and the employee man-hour books had 290 pages. In 2021, the road project book had 524 pages and the employee man-hour book had 138 pages. All of the above-mentioned frost boil repairs can be found in these books supplied to each of the commissioners. Both the road projects and the employee man-hour books were reviewed, with the commissioners at the end of the 20 and also at the end of the 21 season. So Commissioner Mager, when you make these statements that are not accurate, it's disheartening to the road department employees. They did an excellent job locating and documenting the required information for FEMA. They spent the entire year repairing all the affected roads. Your statement made it look like the road department employees cost Emmons County hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is not accurate. As commissioners, it's all of your jobs to provide accurate information to the public.
Right, well, I mean, that's an absolute incorrect statement if I made that, because that was all, what I had mentioned happened before you came. So if I spoke that it was your name while you were running it, that was a mistake, and I'll admit that, I'm sorry, I guess I don't remember making that statement when we were having a discussion, so, cause that did happen prior to you coming, because we weren't tracking with the GPS and we didn't have the proper paperwork. I don't think I'd ever make the mistake of saying that you didn't properly track it with paperwork, Francis, so if that was a genuine mistake, and I am sorry if I said that, cause that was not true.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm sure it was just in the heat of a conversation you're having with somebody, and the years go by.
Right.
This is 20, these two are 20, and then of course the commissioners received another book in 21 and 21. And it was our commissioners, when I took that job, the problem was there is no paperwork, there's no trail. So the commissioner said we should hire somebody. Well, it's hard to find somebody, but we hired Kelly for $800 a month. And we had 2 years of history, which you did a very good job also helping us with that, Commissioner Mager. But I just wanted to make that clear to the public that there was no commissioners or no road department employees that sacrificed hundreds of thousands of dollars. For some reason that year, FEMA would not pay Emmons County for frost blowouts.
Right, but in defense of myself, the year prior, we also did significant work before you came, and that was not properly tracked. And we had to go through and try and retrack paperwork after the fact and try and submit it with Mary Sanger, and we were denied. But that's what I was speaking of. I wasn't speaking of the instance that you did, but prior to you coming in my first years of commission, we were not tracking it, so my statement wasn't incorrect, it was inaccurate to the fact that I probably named you, and that was an accident if it was, and I do apologize for that, and it wasn't that our guys weren't doing a good job, but it wasn't being properly tracked and managed, so that we could get reimbursement for the proper issues, not when you were there, but prior to you, because we didn't have the cell phones, we weren't tracking the locations with GPS coordinates properly, and tracking quantities and hours, and all that, and that's what I was referencing, so that did happen, it did not happen under you, I will admit that, and I do
And
apologize.
you are correct to that. That's why the commissioners, when I met with the commissioners and all this bad stuff happened to the road system, we knew we had to get paperwork in place. And you're right, it was the fall of 19 when there was over 20 inches of rain and all the roads froze up and washed out. So yeah, I knew what you were talking about, but I wanted to correct it for the record because a lot of people watch these videos and they hear, uh-oh, there was, $500,000 left on the table, and I just want to be correct. And what the road departments did was, there's just pages and pages of sites where latitudes, longitudes were provided to FEMA, but for some reason, they didn't want to. So the last thing I have, and
So there, Fred, there was a lot of it denied then, correct?
well,
Or no?
yeah, Emmons County got denied all the way. There was one other county, and some counties did get money, but when I had conversed with Mary Sanger, who is, she's pretty high up in the saddle on top of this stuff here, she had just said frost boils were not covered. And we didn't understand back then why they didn't. That's why she did a reapplication, and it still didn't go through. It would have been great if it would have.
See, we were up in Morton County and seen their network of the computer system, how it got downloaded into their network. And now they can just hit a button, how they do it, it's beyond my savvy of computer. But they've got a phone right in their hand
Right.
to submit it to FEMA.
Yep.
I was so impressed with it, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I wish we could introduce that into Emmons County on a smaller scale, but it's still important, no doubt.
Well, it was a whole conversation you guys were having about records and the importance of them, and it is. You know, there's 2 years that I worked for Emmons County, but we need to have 10 years of history. Because we have one commissioner that's original from when I came. The rest of you are all new. It's just, Commissioner Magrum here.
I'm the wise old commissioner on this.
You're in the hot seat,
That's
you
right.
know,
The wise young.
the bulls and I, throwing darts.
So my other question is, so when we hired Kelly to make these books here, and we reviewed them at the end of the year, the commissioners who left, who are no longer with us, are supposed to turn them back to the next commissioner in their district. Not that you may ever use them, but if you need them, have those commissioners pass them books forward. Did you ever get one from?
No, no.
So I don't know if there'd be a way auditor.
I have one in my office, if you wanna grab it, Leonard could drop it off with the
I
other ones
think-
I never got.
Do you want one too, do you?
I still have my original copy, yeah, cause I was on the board.
So every commissioner had one at that time?
Yes.
Yep, everybody got one. So as like, Commissioner Everly, you know, retired, or Commissioner Wyko, any of these commissioners, Commissioner Culver, they should pass them forward to you guys. You should have, Commissioner Holmes. And like I say, you may never use them again, because they're already, well, 4 and 3 years old. But if you ever need them, at least we have a history. And now, with Superintendent Lawler, he'll start his process, and over the years, this stuff will keep developing. So we have a history for the county, because ours, all the culverts that we did, I think John has them for what Skylar did and whatever Russ is doing now. This is gonna be big into the future.
Is this all downloaded into the computer network system,
So
other than hard copy?
when the commissioners hired Kelly, they agreed $800 a month. She bought her own computer and then her own software. And then what she does, she just printed this out for all the commissioners, because most commissioners don't wanna get on a computer. If they can page through that, it's every document. Now, who's gonna wanna go through 2 Bibles every time you're here? But there's an index in there, for example, and this one will tell you exactly where the frost boils are. It'll tell you exactly where the culverts are, if you just grab your index and go through it. So we should get these back to the commissioners somehow and go from there. Anyway, I appreciate you guys putting me on the agenda today. I just wanted to clarify that, and thank you, Commissioner Magrum. I knew what you were saying, but I just wanted to clear it up for the public, so.
Well, thanks for doing that, and I'm sorry.
Francis, thanks for all your work that year, 2 years down there.
You bet.
You did an awesome job.
It's been a joy, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Francis.
You bet.
Russ, you're next. County Road Department monthly updates.
Morning, guys.
Morning, Russ.
Well, we can start with, what we've been doing. I guess we've been doing some blading on the warmer days and stuff like that, trying to get some of these roads with the washboards. Some of it's working okay, some of it's coming back in a few days and stuff like that, but we're doing what we can to kind of whatever. We did some rip wrapping out by, Larry Lyers and, Jeff Rose, that corner out there on that Federal Aid Road. It took approximately like almost 90 loads of rock to fill that up, but we did get that done and accomplished. We're out in the shop right now doing some maintenance and stuff like that. We're building some fenders on the lowboy trailer, building a few racks for outside and stuff like that, cleaning things up a little bit. A couple guys are down in Strasburg working on some of the Packers, rebuilding them for the back of the blades, and yeah, stuff like that, just trying to take advantage of the warm weather as best we can when it comes and stuff like that, and otherwise we stay in the shop and try to get our stuff ready for spring, I guess, so.
I wanna compliment you. I was out there yesterday, I stopped in, and you were with Drew, and prior to that, the movement and what's happening in the shop. I was impressed the way you've made changes and organizing, and the way the guys were working on these fenders and the racks outside in the storage units to simplify and make it efficient and neat. I was totally impressed.
Things get, through the summer and stuff, you get busy and it's hard to kind of keep a handle on that stuff. It gets out of hand a little bit, so this time of year, you know, weather permitting, we can take advantage and try to get it back in order the best we can and get ready for spring again, you know.
And these picks, I think that's what you call them, correct, these cutting edges?
Yeah,
I don't know, I think most of you guys have witnessed that, have you not?
Awesome job, that really makes a difference in us.
it does, they have a place and a purpose, and like I said, some of the roads, you know, within 2 days, they're back to where they were, but
Yeah,
there's some areas with tough material. I know Joe drives the road every day, it's pretty hard to maintain, I think, a lot of bumps and stuff, and,
yeah,
yeah, but all we can do is try.
well,
looks good.
that's good, you know, yeah, we all appreciate that.
I'm gonna bring something up,
Go ahead.
I think most of you are familiar with these Verizon tracking on that Morton County
Yeah,
uses.
oh, yeah.
We all watched or checked this out when we went up to Morton County to visit. Russ expressed, that he'd like to see that in the graders at least, and possibly the trucks and the pickups, as a tool to protect the employees. We kinda visited about that. I did, send a message yesterday to the Verizon guy to get some numbers, for basically everything that you had asked for, the 5 pickups, 3 trucks, and 8
Eight
graders.
blades, yeah.
I think he called me while we were in this meeting, he needed my number, and I gave him my number yesterday, and I'm pretty sure there's a voicemail from him now, but, so, once we get some numbers, we can discuss if we wanna do that. I did talk to another person in the county that said, hey, you know, you've got that in your service with Cat and with John Deere, and Russ did some research. It's more expensive than Verizon, it's less extensive. It's a little bit more difficult if you wanna look back on the history. But I know, talking with Russ and I, we kinda thought that it's a nice tool to use when somebody calls and says, hey, I haven't seen a grader in 6 months, and he can go back and look and say, well, it was out there 3 weeks
It's
ago,
amazing.
so.
Yeah.
Everybody should see what they have, and we were all, well, Gardner and I went up with Russ one day, and then you guys did, and maybe
Yeah,
we should
right.
go up and attend it, to see it.
Well, and just even, when you get a baseless accusation, somebody makes an accusation against an employee, we can go back and I think it would be helpful, there was discussion about, verifying what these guys were doing with their time cards. It's real easy to see where they're at, or where they were at 2 weeks ago, or the beginning of the pay period, and take their time card out and get on there and look, so I think it would be a helpful tool. I think Morton County Superintendent said they pay $200 and some a month for it, they have 20-some blades and gravel trucks and a sign truck, and so I think it would be fairly reasonable for us to set up. I think they're $16 or $20 a piece, the trackers themselves. This salesman gets on, FaceTimes with you guys how to install it, it's pretty quick, it screws into an auxiliary thing, you guys all know that, so. Once I get some numbers, we can bring it back at the next meeting and see if we can get this rolling.
Okay, and Craig did do some homework, he gave me a website, and I reached out to that place as well, same thing, just a different company. I did get some numbers back this morning here, just recently, and he's gonna put us on a Zoom meeting here at 2:30 this afternoon and give us a demonstration. So I guess if that's okay, I can just wait and we can compare them next month, if that works for you guys, would that be?
Very good.
Yeah, I'm assuming by this afternoon I'll probably have numbers, but that might
Is
be a
that the
little
same
bit.
one that you had brought up before, that?
Yes.
Cause did we had a Zoom or something once
Right.
before, right?
With
It's
some
the
gal that
same-
talked about it, right?
Okay,
And I'm sure if needed, they could do it here again, if you guys wanna see, you know, firsthand what it does and what it looks like, that's.
And Jim and I were out there at the shop when you invited us to come out that morning. And we went out and we talked to the employees, the guys, they were all at the Lincoln shop. And just explaining to them that it's not that you see them in the blade or the pickup.
Right.
We're not spying on you, that isn't what this is for. It's to take the pressure off of you.
Right.
On these false accusations that people make against him.
Right.
I think it's just a good, healthy tool.
Plus, you could track it too, Russ, I mean, if they're missing some roads,
Exactly.
you know, I mean, more than on the defense, it'd be offense.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's got good to both sides,
Yeah,
it really
right.
does, you know,
Yeah.
so.
So,
And it does save you from actually driving, I mean, otherwise, the only other way to verify stuff like that is to drive, and I mean, I've
Yeah.
driven the little bit I've been here, I've driven from that corner to that corner. It's a long ways.
It's a lot of
It takes a
driving.
lot of time to do that as well, you know, so.
Yep,
And
sounds good.
I know when we were out there this last time, Dan and I, there was, so they had a clothing guy come, safety clothing guy. There was some discussion by the employees about, they get it was a $200 stipend for?
$250 per year.
Okay, which is boots, jeans, vests, coats, whatever. And their question was, and we didn't, I don't know if Russ found anything out about it. Is there a requirement for the county guys to wear high-vis, equipment, or is that a requirement that was set? Like in Lincoln, there's not a requirement for our guys to wear high-vis, we just ask them to wear high-vis gear, cause they're out on a garbage truck at 5 in the morning. And it just looks nice
It's
and.
just a safety.
Okay.
It's a safety deal.
Because their thing was, well, if you're making us do it, you should provide some of the vests, jackets, and let us use our $250 for boots and jeans and.
And a lot of these vests that they have are get from the Association of Counties through their CEG, program.
Okay.
We can get them for,
And I just like,
Get it for a fraction.
we
of the cost.
basically told them we would ask that question, cause I didn't know if it's a requirement for them to have them on or not.
Well, I think the understanding was like, I know with the state highways, if you're inside the right of way, you are required to wear high vis.
Are you?
And so it just seems like a good synergy to just be like, we're gonna adopt that same policy, that way if we're working inside someone's right of way that demands it, we're already following those rules.
Yeah, okay.
And so, and as far as the $250 allowance, it's kinda like our volunteer time thing, it was a policy to at least start the process.
Yep.
If it's not working, or, you know, or the expectation would be, hey, that's gonna cover a lot of your personal protective equipment, but there's also certain things the county within the budget, if you decide part of your budget, you wanna take a couple thousand and buy everybody a high-vis winter jacket or something, I don't think anybody on this board would have a problem with you utilizing some of that under a certain line item that would be germane to it, you know,
Okay.
equipment or something, if that's something you wanna, cause I think it's fair, cause a good example is my business. I want my guys to wear company gear, I provide it for them, hats, shirts, and then I also do an allowance for things like boots, cause I want them to have decent boots. I want them to have jeans without holes in them, or, you know, and so if you're expecting that for your employees, there should be some leverage to help them do it, you don't make these rules and then force them to do it, so
Right.
that's kind of up to the superintendent, and I think Skylar was going that route, where he was maybe looking at doing like Emmons County Highway Department, high-vis jackets, getting everybody, you know, whether it's a winter jacket or.
See, there was discussion that day out there, some of the guys said, well, you haven't gotten a new jacket, you're entitled to that first new jacket for $250. On the county, that's what they said they used to get, and they're still wearing that old coat. Is that the way it
I
was?
think the jackets were a part of a program one year, that was, like, I don't think it was us, that was like.
Is that how they come about?
That was
Yeah.
like
That's what I understood too. There was
RDO
some-
or somebody helped and got everybody jackets, it was somebody, I can't say the name, again, I don't wanna misspeak,
No, no,
but
okay.
someone as a part of it was like a grant I can't say who it was, but that got the guys jackets, it might have been
Okay.
through the state or through
well, through the
LTAP?
Association of Counties, you
Or
can get like
LTAP.
ice cleats, you can get like vests, you can get, I mean, we get new chairs.
I'm starting to think it was LTAP.
I usually sent out an email when there's money available.
I just wanted to bring it up for discussion because it was brought up by the employees out there, you know, boots have gone up, jeans have gone up, and I know, I had a $200 one on the railroad too, and you basically got boots every other year, because, I mean, you'd spend $200 on a good pair of boots.
Yeah.
And then you run out of money and you want another jacket, and those guys, their stuff doesn't last long, and the grease and the oil, so that's why I brought it up,
And when I worked for, Cadmus, Lee and Jackson, we did a ton of highway work, and they actually bought high-vis t-shirts. And then we could buy them, and they were dirt cheap, like cause they bought 1,000 t-shirts, so they were buying them for $5 a piece, and we had to pay like 50% of the cost. Well, you were buying t-shirts for $2, like, obviously, it's probably not that case now, but there's all kinds of options that we can go with it, cause I think the long-term goal is for our guys to be properly equipped, whether that's the right safety glasses, if we gotta introduce most of these companies have programs where if you sign on with them, there's 3 different versions you can get for a discounted rate if you buy 500 pairs, and that, same thing goes with shirts. You know, there's boot programs through Red Wing, and you know, when we just, that policy was to just open the door to like, this is what we want guys to wear. If you want them to wear steel toe boots, and there's a carbon offer, then you go through a boot program. If they don't wanna participate in the boot program, then they buy their own, but you need to start offering those things so that our guys are equipped and are accessible to that equipment, so.
I probably overstepped when I was out there, said, you know, these guys are running, they're doing something, they jump in a different pickup, they don't have their safety vest, and it's parked out in 5 miles from there. I said, just buy a couple boxes of vests and throw them in the shop, they can grab a vest and go instead of driving out to the other site to get it, to be in compliance on safety.
Right, and they have vests out there, there's a box full of vests, you know, but a lot of that stuff, it's a lot more convenient to have a t-shirt or a coat, or, you know, the vest is just another piece of clothing that gets caught and stuff like that, and I think they're all appreciative of the $250 allowance. Just like James said, it's no discrimination of any point, it just doesn't go very far, is kinda what they were saying, you know, and I agree,
The jackets are $100.
we all go shopping, you know, with that, I mean, and to buy one piece of clothing a year, you're losing ground at that, really, you know, so.
And you brought a new vendor on that's a lot more reasonable, correct, than what we were.
He just has options, I don't know if he's any more reasonable, I mean, like Marcy said, there's options, I mean, there's a lot of different options really to go through. You know, we could look into it a lot, he just gave us a demonstration to say what he has available. You know, there's definitely, we don't have to go with any specific, it's just, they were basically reaching out to see if there was a little bit more available, I think is what they were kinda, especially if it was required by the county, you know, and that question came up, just like James said, and nobody really had an answer, including myself, I didn't know if it was required or if it was mandatory, you know, stuff like that, so.
Well, I think just like a lot of things that we're starting to work with, is it was the beginnings of a program. And you know, now with you being superintendent, whatever avenue you think was gonna work best for your guys, like maybe it's a clothing program, maybe they're, you know, depending on the vendors, there's all kinds of options out there where we don't have to probably reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And I think if you find something that can fit into your budget, or we can make a budget work where, you know, maybe we're down to the point where it's more of like a boot program and we're providing shirts or, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of equitable programs I think we can work out where, you know, as long as we're obviously staying within our budget, but we wanna make sure that our guys are well provided for and they're not, you know, really having to dig into their own pockets a lot to do, if we're gonna mandate this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying we need to pay for everything they're wearing, but if we want them to wear high-vis, then we should be making it accessible for them for a reasonable price or free in some cases, like a coat or, you know, same thing with like safety glasses, like, well, you worked at a coal mine, just like I did, I mean, I didn't pay for safety glasses, cause they wanted us to wear them, earplugs, like, those were just parts of your budget in your program, and I think that's going forward, how you want that to go with your department is how you should be tailoring your budgets kind of and trying to fit that in, and I think as long as it can work. I'm all for whatever reasonable avenue gets our guys well equipped, so.
Sounds good, yep. Anything else, Russ? You're doing a good job, from what I've seen, gonna keep at it.
I don't have any more to report as far as working and stuff like that, like I said, we got some more rip wrapping to do, weather permitting, if it warms up again here and stuff, we got a couple of little places we're gonna go after.
There's one out there by Jim Nagel that was brought to my attention, I went out and looked at it last fall, and when I rode with you that one day, we should have stopped and looked at it, the old James Nagel place, do you know where it's at?
I do, yeah.
Go from his yard just to the south of his driveway, there's a culvert that comes from the west side. I think we were out there when Skylar was here. They put an extension on the east side of that culvert, which goes beyond where they had rock and they, got a wet slurry of cement, where it would hit that cement versus they extended the culvert down on the east side, it's too far to the east, and like Jim said, it's gonna raise havoc. It's gonna wash out like it did before. He asked and suggested when I was out there, remove that piece on the east side so it hits where it should hit, and if you have to, just rip wrap on that west side where it comes in. And this would probably be a time to look at it, being you can get to rock,
right?
everything's froze.
Run out and take a look at
Take a
it,
look at it.
okay?
And there's another spot on the Federal Aid Road by the old Leroy Share place. East of Florian Bauman's spot, that intersection to the east, evidently there must be a culvert on the south side that's eroded out. And I think there's a stake on the road,
Okay,
okay? Take a look at, note of that.
And
3 guys called me on that.
okay, I did look at that Mary Ann Han thing down there, Jim.
Yeah,
I did take a look at that and stuff, and we're working on some, probably thinking just dig them out and maybe go back with some regular culverts back in there to make that all work.
good.
The walls are falling away, and they're doing the same up by, Joey Culver's as well.
Yeah, they're just, yeah,
They're-
Is that old 83?
I can't answer.
I think it is.
I don't know.
Do you know, Gary?
Pardon me.
That old road, I think, is Highway 83, is it not, by Mary and Dennis Hans?
I'd have to look again, I haven't researched that area.
I think
I don't
that's
know.
old 83.
But I do know Mary Ann said there's a fair amount of trucks go through there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that gets kinda, yeah, it's getting a little risky, yeah, well, I think so, yeah.
I mean, you know, the embankment things are coming in and stuff, and you could possibly fix it, but that stuff's been in there since the 50s, 60s, something like that. It's probably time to
Probably time, yeah.
think about replacing it, you know, so.
Could you extend them? Do we have any box culverts that would extend that culvert, not to rip the road open?
I don't think anything that's gonna match up
No,
to that
okay,
stuff.
okay.
That's kind of a
An odd
prefab
one.
deal that they
Yeah.
put in there, kinda the same up by Joey's, the same deal, you know?
That's a bad one, too.
Yeah, they're just,
Probably some handmade WPA stuff.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot of this stuff is, especially on like the secondary roads, section line
Oh,
type
yeah.
roads, a lot of that was. They had
WPA.
a crew of guys and they went out and they just poured it on site and built it, and, yeah.
They were
That's-
farm boys, farmers
Well,
that
they're
stepped up.
100 years old now, you know,
Yeah,
so they're
close to it.
getting old.
Yeah, Russ, you know, it wouldn't hurt, remember, well, I think Francis was the guy that brought that up, in one of our meetings when we had extra people here, about having a couple guys go around and, or one guy go out and just really check all these roads and try and make a list of the culverts that need work, you know?
Well, didn't Skylar do that? Aaron?
Well, there was some work done, cause they were taking GPS units and they were going out,
Oh, there you go.
they were recording the culverts, and then they were, if they had done new ones, they were trying to like tag it. I don't know if they were using like an Excel spreadsheet or something, but they were, like, if they had installed it, they'd take shots, and they were trying to make like a culvert master list.
Kinda like what they're doing in Morton, what they do, they go out on the topography maps and they design it
Yeah.
for the topography
Yeah.
and the water that moves through it.
Well,
They-
yeah.
We did the
Part of
same.
that system we're talking
That they
about.
have that
Yeah.
system on that computer system.
I tried to get on that site, yeah,
That's amazing.
that would be good.
So we
yeah.
did that, we did it at the Falkirk mine too, and they were doing something very similar, is where they were trying to record the ends,
Yeah,
and then they were measuring the pipe,
yeah.
so you knew the pipe. And
Matches
then if they had
the
any
water.
idea on the date, like, hey, we did that 5 years ago, they were trying to put that in, like, installed in 2016, or, so at least there was some dates and some sizes. So that way down the road, when one disappears, cause it gets dirt pushed over it, and you're like,
Right.
is there a culvert here or not, well, if the map shows it, then at least you go dig for it, so, and they had GPS coordinates tied, they were doing that last winter, cause we didn't have a lot of snow, I know they were working on that, so.
They were working,
But,
It's something
I'm
to
not
look
sure.
at, Russ, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm sure willing to do some driving around and looking too, but it'd be better to have.
there you go, volunteer work.
right?
Yeah.
Volunteer labor,
I'm
cheap
not
labor.
gonna.
He needs therapy out of the picture.
Jim, it's on record, it's too late.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't, yeah, right. It would take a while to drive. Try to run it down, yeah, right. I don't think that.
Anything else, guys?
I would've told Russ that in private, Jim.
Big mistake.
You knew you were.
I have a gravel request, I don't think it's immediate, but with that warm stretch we had, it got, so it'd be Pat Human's old place
okay,
on 66th Street out west of Hazelton Ways. The
Revenue.
Rebeniches live out there now.
okay,
And then, I mean, Weston's a bus driver, and, Danielle works at the school, and they got a couple young kids, so they're, that road wasn't getting maintained for a long time, cause Pat was kinda there, kinda not, it was getting bladed maybe once a year, well, we probably need to kinda add it to our You know, it is on the right of way, it is a, you know, it was a built-up road, it's just, it probably needs a little bit of gravel, and it gets pretty greasy in the, so. Just something to put down on your list, if you were graveling in the area, once you start getting out that way, probably, it's not a long stretch, maybe a load or two, and I think Justin was out there trying to get it into shape a little now that someone's been living out there, but it.
You're saying the section line into the yard?
Right.
Yes.
But
Oh, into the
it's
yard off
60
that
it's
road, that
66th
section.
Avenue,
Okay,
it's just,
right.
it dead ends in their yard, because after you get past the yard, it's a giant
Yeah,
ravine, but
yeah,
right,
they did
right.
build it into the residence, and it is public right away, it's.
Right.
I got one for you too, Russ, I think it's Lila Lane, the Beidelsbachers road that runs out there, it used to be, according to them, that was a county road, that they put some culverts in and they washed out twice and they abandoned it, well, there's two
Right.
families that live out there now. And that, stretch of about a mile is, I was out there on Sunday and it could use just a blade to run across it for sure, maybe pull the shoulders up. And then after that, I'll let you determine that, I'm not a road guy, but that's a rough road too, but that's, there was nobody out there for a while and now there's there's two families living out there, so that's.
Into the Beidelsbacher yard?
Yeah.
The only issue with Lila Lane that I would bring up is I'm not sure if we have easement on that, cause that came up once.
That
Yeah,
got brought up in this
they're
recent-
working on that, and I think they've decided to leave it.
So leave it out, but-
They pulled away on that.
Right,
because Leon called.
to my knowledge, that's a private road.
Yeah,
Well, it's got a 911 sign on it.
Yeah, but
so-
I don't think it's actually, it's
They
not
told
an
me
address, but
they-
it's not public.
They were
right.
gonna make it private and they decided not to, is what she told me.
Right,
I-
right,
Well,
There
you're
was a
gonna close
petition
it.
to close that,
yep,
and then they decided, they backed out.
That's
Yeah.
right, yep.
they pulled out of it, that was this summer.
Yeah,
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
so
She
does-
was in
does
there,
the
she-
county have, did we have an easement going in there?
yeah, there was that easement going all the way from there, remember, to.
all the way down to that other point.
Okay,
But yeah, they were gonna,
but they withdrew that
yes.
then,
Yeah.
so.
They
okay.
withdrew it, yep.
Okay, well, I mean, that's just my big rub is if there's an easement, if there's an easement and it's considered public, then it's a little more discretionary.
There were two culverts down there, correct, Josh?
down.
Right down in that area
I was
where you
told
are.
they were there multiple times, they
Yeah,
washed out
yeah.
twice and that
There
was.
used to be a road, right, coming off
Yep.
of Will
Right.
Lane, and then that's
Yep.
why that got built, so.
That's rugged.
Okay, anything else?
I don't know anything else, anybody else?
No, just thanks for what you're doing,
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah.
Keep it up. Appreciate it.
One
Thanks,
other,
guys.
just, is the Schwab crossing?
Yes.
That's done?
That is done for
Okay.
now, we talked to Mike here, me and Gar were out there actually last week, we ran into Mike, we went out to look at some stuff and he was feeding. He did talk to us, he's very happy with what took place there, and he said the only thing he would maybe consider is, he was even happy with the way it is, it's even we were gonna come back and do that low water crossing system like you had discussed there. He said he would be happy just leaving it as is and letting it go as long as it lasts and address it from there, is that something you guys would be okay with?
As long as it's safe, and I don't, if we wanna have a third party verified or something for liability issue, that'd be my only concern. If he's happy with it and we're happy with it and some engineering firm would give it like the okay, cause I just.
Could he sign a waiver of
Or
liability?
whatever, I mean, it just, as long as the liability issue's taken care of, I just, because
But
because
if he
we think
signed
it's
it
okay.
knowing somebody else
Yeah.
goes across it that didn't sign that waiver and it wasn't safe, then we are.
Then we're-
I'm just wondering if Wold would be around in the area and
What
then
I-
in your future could just take a peek at it and say, yeah, that looks safe. And if they would be willing to,
In my opinion, with a crossing like that, we should probably have it on some kind of an inspection schedule, and I think as long as we're doing something to, cause let's face it, that, we are contractually obligated to that because of the road. We might as well treat it almost like a bridge. And whether we in-house inspect it, or we get a third party, it's a liability thing for me is all. As far as, if Mike's happy, and we're happy, and there's some avenue that limits or mitigates our liability, so if somebody does go over the edge or through it, that's the big concern I would have. That, otherwise, I'm fine with whatever. I think it's awesome that you got something going, and if it's, that would be my big concern.
I hear you.
I don't wanna just ignore it and then nobody's watching it and 20 years from now, somebody goes through the dang thing and we get sued. That would be my biggest concern.
Can we post it, not open to public travel or no?
I don't think
And
there's
that
any
takes
public
liability,
access there.
or what?
Can you post it for the amount of pounds that you handle?
For that to happen, we'd have to have that inspected.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
you'd
what-
have to have somebody that's got some
That
experience
might
on
not be a
that.
bad idea.
I think as far
Yeah.
as posting it, it's not public right away. The reason we did it was because it was a part of a contractual obligation for the road that goes by
Okay.
Mike's place. That,
Yep.
it's not to open to public
So if
access.
we post
There's
it,
a-
that would take our liability off.
Well, that would probably be a part of a
Yeah.
multi-step process to make sure that we're not gonna get sued. I think
Right.
posting it, some kind of inspection or oversight, just so that everybody's on top of it, cause let's face it, even us as a board really didn't understand that thing. It was our responsibility, now that we've gone this point, from now on, so the next commissioners, superintendents, employees, state's attorney, everybody's aware that it's our responsibility and we need to be taking care of it just like any other bridge. That's my opinion. Otherwise, I think
I can talk with Mike Ravenius
Yeah.
and see when they're gonna be
Yeah,
in
do
the
it.
area or something
Yeah.
like that, and kind of pick his
hypothetically,
brain.
if you have some kind of, proper inspector verify it and we're all okay with it, I don't,
No,
Yeah.
yeah, look at the world. Yeah.
as long as it's safe.
Yep,
Okay,
okay.
Sounds good, we'll see you guys.
thanks Russ.
Thanks, Russ. Miscellaneous, guys, amend 2024 appropriations,
Okay,
did you have this?
I didn't know.
Yeah, Marlo's had a sheet, you guys seen it.
So I looked at the appropriations that we have to amend on there. The Prairie Dog, we spent $184,108.10 more than I appropriated, I think, when we did the projects, they came through higher than we anticipated. The LATCF, that's that money I applied for my new Tyler technician, software program. I think what happened there is a bill came through in 24 instead of in 25 that I anticipated, so it was like $9,200 there. I mean, the money is there, it's just the appropriation went over for 24. Police contract was another one. Gary only budgeted 26,000 is what he told me, they ended up spending 59, I don't know what extra he needed, that he spent at 24 instead of carrying it over, I'm not sure. And then ARPA also, I think we're all aware that we spent more on there than what we anticipated, some of those projects came back a little higher, so.
Did they show us what the overrun was and why?
Yeah, they showed you guys when they were
Okay.
here. Yeah,
A lot of times with this amendment thing is
the money's there.
you,
it's
you had
just-
X amount in ARPA funds and we were gonna spend
Yeah.
that on the courthouse.
Right,
And then, oh shoot, for another 10 grand more, we could accomplish that, and if you look back at the past meetings, you're like,
yeah,
well, and so this is the byproduct of that is now that you went over your appropriation, you didn't
Right.
necessarily spend money you didn't have, it's just you didn't appropriate. Now you have to amend the budget, so when the auditors come in, you can
Right.
explain that, hey, this is what we did, we pulled the money from this and put it over in here to make up for it.
so when the auditors come and look at my budget, when I appropriate, if we went over, they ask for, minutes from the county commissioner where you guys approved to amend the appropriation.
So then we have to have a motion to
Yeah.
approve this, correct?
Yeah,
So I would make the motion to amend the 2024 appropriations as stated by Auditor Olhausen.
Okay.
I'll second it, Jack.
Second by Jim. All in favor of the motions? The motion, excuse me, made by Aaron?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Plat. Item 2, the west 47 feet of the north half of lot 9 of the northeast quarter of the
Change
southeast quarter of section 17, township 13279.
Right, this one, it's a smaller lot, but they're just selling it to Jack Doctor, they have that
Yep.
little cabin right here.
Yeah.
I think they realized the east boundary was right up to their cabin here, so they're splitting off that
Okay,
west 47 feet of this lot 9 here to sell to them.
That'll be included.
to make it more friendly for them.
Yeah, so I'll just take this and merge it with that tax parcel,
Okay.
so
Okay.
there's no problem with that one, that I don't see.
Oh, that's a different deal, I would say.
I do believe.
That's all okay with me.
So that lot 9 doesn't become too small or anything like that? with the,
No, and actually it could be merged with Lot 1, they own both.
okay,
Yeah,
They own them both.
yes, what's her name? Waltz?
I'll make a motion to, approve the plat.
Aaron makes a motion to approve the plat, second by who?
Me,
Miller?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. The next plat is, Lot C, southeast quarter of section 18, township 13276.
Yeah, it's a similar situation, but with the road going into Kramer's here, south of Linton. They thought their line was up there along the road, but, so this little blue line was part of Lot C with Holmes, Ryan. So there's parceling this out and then selling it to Kramer's. So they have actual legal access on that road coming in. Just make sure they're covered, I think.
I'll make a motion to approve that plat.
And I'll second it.
Okay, Gardner, second, Magrum. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. The next one is application for abatement or refund of taxes for parcel number 15-5426-10 for tax year 2024.
I believe these last two are all farm exemptions. They
Oh, are they?
applied for the 24
Okay.
exemption.
So I'll read the other one, application for abatement or refund of taxes for parcel 22-0000-04698-000 for tax year 2024.
They're both farm exemptions.
So they went through the tax director's office and the state, everything's.
They didn't get their paperwork in on time before we ran the taxes,
Right,
and they have to file for an abatement if they
but I mean,
want.
the abatement's been looked at by the director and the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Jim Gardner makes a motion to approve it,
I'll say.
seconded by Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Motion carried.
Is that for 4 and 5 you're doing those for?
Yep. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh, can I bring it up or can't? It wasn't on the agenda.
Oh, I think we can.
It's on that deal Russ took, or was it Russ? Took us down to that Tina, Weber. That parcel was sold, correct?
Yeah, down by Beaver Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, that's sold, Russ. He said, yeah, we don't have that
Yeah.
headache anymore. But Chad Schneider thought that they still owned it.
To my knowledge, I thought the Webbers sold it to one of the adjoining neighbors.
They sold
Right?
it.
Yeah,
They sold
I'm
it,
pretty
right?
sure that got sort of.
Okay, he's not okay.
Okay, I was pretty sure that that was what happened, so.
That got sold.
Joe's thinking
Okay.
the same thing, so
Yep.
I think that's.
They wanted us to buy it, and then they came in and said that they sold it.
Yeah,
Okay, yep,
and it got sold to a party that, it was good for the situation.
Yeah.
Whoever adjoining neighbor bought it and it wasn't a problem, so.
okay.
I guess the other thing was this zoning update, what are we gonna do a next chapter or 2 chapters for next week, or next month?
Yeah, we can do some homework, right? Home, whatever.
Software.
Yeah. I kinda read through a lot of it.
Does anybody have a manual?
You can stop in my office and get one. if you want.
Yeah, I don't have one. Do you have one?
I don't have.
Do you have one, Jen?
No, I just went online. It, you know,
Yeah, they're online also.
Yeah, I looked at it online.
So, I just have my old blue book.
I like the old.
In type.
I'm the old.
Well, in type.
Well, for making changes, the book would definitely be nice.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
a lot.
can change down or.
You can change it and make a note with it, just thinking of it.
But yeah, I think you can print it out off the website.
Yeah, you could, I printed you.
I would say just since we haven't really done it yet, and we don't know how easy or hard it's gonna be, maybe we should just
Do one.
start with the general provisions in chapter 1, which is the recreation district, and let's just feel it out.
Feel it out.
Right, instead of taking 3 chapters on it,
Yeah.
holy cow, it's too much, so.
Right.
I would say
I'm
just,
thinking what you just said.
I would suggest putting, on the next agenda, not under old and unfinished business, but actual agenda item would just be, you know, the,
Agenda, I.
zoning ordinance update, general provisions in chapter one,
Yeah, sounds
and then
good.
with the expectation that everybody's gonna go through it and bring your
Just
ideas.
chapter one.
Yeah,
Is that just agreed upon by everybody, or just do that?
that should be.
Everybody in agreement on that?
Consensus.
Okay,
Let's do it.
if you wanna be one of them people and do all 5 chapters or whatever, you do your thing, but
Go ahead. I'll move out of the seat where I'm sitting, you can talk.
I'm just trying, I'm going to be realistic, I'll probably get through 1 chapter, that's gonna be, that's not gonna do, so.
Do we have these on, books on tape by chance?
Books on tape,
Somebody read this as a podcast or listen to it?
You know, actually,
Here, I wanna say something here, maybe I should, but I will. I want you guys to look at this. If we could get this, and if that would be hard to introduce in our county, a rule like this here, a spreadsheet, where the guys can look at the expenditures per month on a ledger side.
I can't went to high school in Michigan, I can't read, so I'm not sure I don't. What I can read, I can't understand, so.
yeah, I don't know either.
Why
Can I add
don't you, spend the next month, Craig, putting our manual on book Clyde tapes, and then we'll start going
You know
through it
what, I
after
think
that.
they have time for technology.
I
see if you
know,
can get like James Earl Jones to do this, I'm like,
I'm sorry, he's gone, I think he made his last Hardee's commercial, and he passed away.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He passed away about 6 months ago, James Earl Jones.
Yeah, distinct voice.
Yeah, I'm wondering who Hardee's is gonna get for their commercials. Arby's, I should say.
Arby's.
Arby's.
Okay, never mind, bad idea.
No, it was a great idea.
Totals, how many revenues, what they got, instead of flipping sheets, it's.
Yeah.
Time for the bills.
What was that, your speed reader, Roger?
Well, this is just that
That's
standard
right.
installation.
Why don't you give it to Marlos?
I can keep it in my.
Keep it in file.
Well, it's just a regulation.
It's a regulation, be what EPA is about.
Yeah. Anybody want a donut?
Oh, sure.
Marcy's. I guess find out what you can do with it.
There you go. Whatever you want, twists, long johns.
What are you gonna do, you guys gonna start this or what?
We did, I don't see a bill in there that I'm questioning, there's nothing in there that I'm questioning.
Went through here.
We just went through there.
Yeah.
All good?
Yeah.
I'm good with it, are you good with it?
Set it down where they are.
Aaron, are you okay with doing it?
Yeah, I'm just looking through the list here, anything that looks,
There's one thing I looked at is on software, the cost on that I had highlighted.
You joining us, guys?
collections.
You, these are twists and long johns. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Tyler Technologies, like you said, that's what you think they work with? You know what they work with,
I
that
thought-
grant, was it Tyler?
No,
Okay, the auditor's office uses Tyler Tech.
yeah,
Tyler Tech?
Yeah, that's what we use.
the program is,
They just
Cartograph
type-
Asset Management.
What's it called?
Cartograph Asset Management.
Do you know anything about it?
We don't have that here. We
Does
use
anybody
Tyler
want
Tech.
Clint's
Could
card?
the shop get that?
We've got a few.
Why not?
I don't know. And how,
But for us, you know, we use Tyler Tech.
Anyone? Bueller?
That's what the state uses, or both of us, pretty counties out, use Tyler Tech.
Jim, what's it?
This here is not from that graph, this is something
That's
the
what
state
cards you
doesn't
got.
accept.
I have one. Yeah, we could get a couple more pictures.
I think we're bringing a whole lot of.
You wanna scroll on?
So they don't get got for a budget.
Two more right here.
And we're pulling to look back what they used up.
Oh, okay, Mr. Chairman, we kinda have a late arrival since we're still in session here.
Were they on the agenda?
No, but I'm assuming it's probably not really a big business related thing.
Okay, it's, the chair's yours. Excuse me, guys, I didn't realize.
No, that's okay. I kind of forgot to do that, but I'm just gonna introduce you guys. If you guys remember Wayne, he
Yep.
was here before. His first day back was Thursday, and Micah started yesterday.
Okay, and your name is what?
Her name is Micah Gross.
Rose, okay.
Yep. and her first day was yesterday.
Okay,
She's training on the recorder side and Wayne is training, back in the clerk side, so.
okay.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome
Yes.
aboard, guys.
Thanks.
Good to be
Good to
back.
meet you.
Well, you're seasoned.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it seasoned, but, hopefully, the learning process will be a little bit quicker from previous experience.
Good, good. Well, welcome aboard. Good luck to all of you.
Thank
you.
you
Good to
very
have you all
much.
aboard.
Wayne's a council member as well, he's an alderman for the city, so
Oh, yeah, okay.
he's got a lot of experience.
Are you getting everything that
A
you
good,
need?
a good alderman for the
Are you
city.
getting everything that you need?
I'm working on it,
Are you?
yeah,
Good.
slowly getting there and still getting some access to stuff, but,
Okay,
everybody's been very helpful.
good,
All my IT departments and
good.
all the support I have between the clerk side and the recorder side, everybody's been super helpful, so
Okay,
we're getting there,
good.
Good,
so
very good.
it's going good so far.
Okay, guys.
Thanks.
Wish you all the
Thank you,
best.
sir.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you. Jake.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Dan, I don't think you got one, one's cards.
Do you have a
From who?
business card too?
I do not have one, but Flynn will, can share my email as well.
You can what?
He can get to it for me, but he just emailed.
What
me.
is
Oh,
yours?
his name for the,
If we're not reviewing the bills and there's no more agenda items,
I think we could.
I would, make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second? Yep.